watching you surf. You're phenomenal.
Oh, well, you're not so bad yourself. Why are you looking at me like that?
You know, in island mythology, there's a goddess of the sea named Neoloa who rides the waves like a chariot. They say when Neoloa cries, her tears are pearls. Don't cry, Neoloa.
Wait, what happened? I was enjoying that clip, and what time is it?
It's Heather Thomas time! That's right. It's the nostalgic Podblast time. And we've got a great one for you today. We have a very, very special guest on the nostalgic Podblast. As most of you know, I am like a super fan of the classic 1980s show, The Fall Guy, which last year celebrated its 40th anniversary since its debut on November 4th, 1981 on ABC television. Well, this special guest joining us live today is pop culture royalty. And I'm so not joking. If you look behind me, this looks like a shrine of like a stalker, which I am not, I assure you. I just have a lot of stills in my collection of all sorts of talented folks that I collect. Still pictures, publicity shots. If you're watching on camera in the Nostalgic Podblast YouTube channel or in the Facebook group or in the unofficial Heather Thomas Fall Guy group, or fan group that I started. Well, I just said who it was, didn't I? It's Heather Thomas who's going to be joining us for a phone interview in just a little bit. But here's some background about Heather Thomas and her acting career. And, you know, you saw her also in the 1980s cult comedy classic Zapped, which turned 40 on July 23rd, 2022. You also saw Heather Thomas cruising a couple times in the original Love Boat show. And much more. Well, I think she might be calling in right now. Hello, is this Heather Thomas?
Yes, it is.
Oh, God, it's so good to hear from you. I am such a fan of your work. How are you doing today?
Oh, my goodness. I'm doing great.
Good, good. Now, I want to talk about your upcoming appearance Labor Day weekend in Orlando, Florida at Fanboy Expo. You're going to do a meet and greet for your fans. It's going to be awesome. And how's that going to go? You're going to be with Lee Majors there, aren't you?
I assume so, yes. I love doing these things. It's really fun. I didn't do them for like a lot of years, and so I just started them up this summer, and I'm having a ball.
That's cool. For years, I wished you would do a meet and greet. I'm so glad that you're doing that to meet your many fans all over the world. And I have some questions, some appropriate questions from your fans from all over the world that I'll ask you later in this interview. But to get started, I just wanted to know, this is kind of a trite question, but I have to ask, how did you get started in show business?
I'd always been in theater and in high school and in junior high, and I had worked on television, when I was in junior high. I hosted a show on NBC that was comprised of kids. Well, we were supposed to be writing it, but they censored it a lot. But anyway, I just was always involved in theater and the idea of story. I was a theater and film major at UCLA theater, then switched to film, and the acting jobs paid for my film. I got an agent. I was in a play, and I got an agent, and so I started going out on commercials and acting parts, and that paid for my films in film school.
Excellent. Did you start as a model, or did you do, just like you said, you were mostly a theater actress?
Yeah, I'm not tall enough to be a model.
Hey, I had a question.
I'm 5'7".
You're 5'7"? Well, I'm 5'6", so you got me beat. I had a question. I have a book that says you were born in Santa Monica, California, but online it says you were born in Connecticut. Which is it?
I was born in Connecticut,
Cool. Good.
Greenwich, Connecticut.
The reason I say good is, there's a lot of misinformation on IMDb, I've noticed. So, cool. So that is correct then. So my book is wrong.
They don't even have all my credits.
Yeah, that's right. I see that your first credited role, speaking of credits, was in David Cassidy, Man Undercover, and you played a character named Carol Manning, spelled Caryl, Carol Manning. The show only lasted about 10 episodes in 1978. Do you have any memories of that experience?
Yeah, sure. They were very nice to work with, all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved David. He was great.
And also, now, eventually, you caught the eye of Glenn Larson, the prolific executive producer of shows like BJ and the Bear and The Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo, and you were cast in a cool crossover story in which you played a character named Caroline Capote, who was a private eye. And you started in an episode called The Girls of Hollywood High in BJ and the Bear, which aired on February 20.
On the Hollywood High or something like that.
Yeah. And you had a partner, another actress named Rebecca Reynolds played a character named Heather Fern.
She is so funny.
Yeah?
Yeah, she was hysterical. She kept me in stitches.
I have the second part, which was a Lobo episode, like a week later in my collection, but I've never seen The Girls of Hollywood High. All the masters of BJ and the Bear were destroyed in the great 2008 fire at Universal Studios, which sucks. Like the 35 millimeter negatives supposedly were destroyed, which stinks of that show.
Yeah. But people have copies.
Yeah, they do. They do from old television recordings and whatnot, airings. That was your first big break. And let's see. Do you have any memories of working on BJ and the Bear, like of Greg Evigan or the stars of Lobo?
Yeah, I loved Greg.
Yeah?
As a matter of fact, I would do a lot of autograph shows back in the day when I was on the air, and Greg would be there too.
What about the chimp?
I didn't work a lot with the chimp, but the chimp was a cutie.
Cool. So, please talk about your audition process for The Fall Guy, which started about a year after BJ and the Bear and Lobo folded, actually months after. Did you audition, or did Glenn Larson handpick you for the role?
Of course I auditioned. I auditioned like everybody else. You start with an initial read. Well, now you film yourself, but I went in for an initial reading, and then I went back through the callback process at Network, and I got cast.
So you had to do like a song and dance for the suits and all that jazz, the whole process?
Yeah, you read and you read and you read, and then they match you up. And then at the end, we had the whole cast reading for the Network, together.
That's cool. And was there a screen test, Heather?
Mm-mm.
Oh, cool. Well, you had awesome chemistry.
There were no screen tests in those days.
You had
now
awesome.
You film it all.
Yes, ma'am. And you had awesome chemistry with Lee and Doug Barr, who's been on this show. I'm very grateful to interview you and grateful to have interviewed Doug. Thanks also to Curtis of the RetroZest Podcast and to your assistant for making this happen. But I wanted to mention that.
Yes, Ms. Dell. She does everything perfect.
I have a quick question about the Fall Guy pilot. Janet Leigh was in the original cast as the Belle bondswoman that y'all worked for. Did you have any scenes with her? I know there was a scene over the phone.
Yes, I did.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, because I only have half of it. Like, I have a hybrid print. The first half is the unaired version, studio for 20th Century Fox, and the second half is the aired version.
You've got a hold of a lot more stuff than I do.
Yeah, I've got every episode on 16 millimeter reel-to-reel film I started collecting in 1995, and I'm glad I did. But you're about to have a big comeback because The Fall Guy is about to stream on Disney Plus. I have from a reliable source that told me that, and the movie is filming in Australia soon, starring Ryan Gosling. And they had better call you and Lee and Doug to do a cameo in that movie. Would you do it if they did?
I would totally do that.
Man, it'd be like a paid trip to Australia. Pretty sweet. But can you describe Janet Leigh in any scenes you did briefly in the pilot to The Fall Guy?
She was lovely. I enjoyed working with her. She was a very nice lady.
Well,
That's usually my experience of all. Everybody's nice. Everybody's very, generous.
They are, and there were so many fantastic performers in that pilot, like Lou Rawls, Eddie Albert from Green Acres, Paul Williams, Farrah Fawcett, and more. Would you please elaborate about shooting the pilot and working with those great talents? And You were on set with Farrah Fawcett in that final scene in the pilot, correct?
I don't know if I was on set with her or not, but I met her.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, because they might have cheated it and shot.
I wasn't in a scene with her per se, but they might have cheated it.
Yes. Well, cool. And Heather, you had dressed up. I love this episode with Elvira, Cassandra Peterson. And in one episode, you dressed up as Elvira because in the episode was a Halloween show. You're supposed to be doubling her in the story.
Yeah, you were laughing about it.
You look fantastic in that getup. I wish they showed more of you in that episode or did more with that because you looked incredible. You had the wig on and just you rocked that outfit.
Oh, thank you.
Let's see. And you also, the director, Alan Crosland, had you scream a lot in that episode, and you have a great scream. I wish you did more like horror movies back in the day or now. That would be
I've done
great.
a fair share of horror movies.
You did? Oh, man, forgive me. I didn't realize that. I need to do some more homework. That's cool. I want to go back and watch that stuff. Let's see. So... do you have any guest stars on Fall Guy that you enjoyed working with? I'll just throw out some names in case anything comes to mind, like Priscilla Presley, Heather Locklear, Richard Lynch, Lindsay Wagner. Any of those or others come to mind of a pleasant experience working with them?
Yeah, all of them were great. I worked with Jim Coburn. Everybody was fun. Lou Rawls was fun.
Yeah. And I mentioned this to Doug. I don't know if you know this, but when Fox released season 1 of Fall Guy on DVD back in 2006, they took out all the pop music because of music royalties, but more importantly, they edited out Paul Williams from the fight scene in the Palomino Club, and they blurred his face during the fight.
It was so fun, and Pat McCormick, they are so fun.
Oh, man, yeah, I loved him in Smoking the Bandit. What a great... and they did a second season Fall Guy together, basically as the same roles. Anyway.
Yeah.
And let's see. Now, do you have any memories of actor John Vernon, who most people in the audience will know as the Dean in Animal House? You had some great scenes with him in a couple of episodes of Fall Guy. There was one where you're in a hospital, your character, you have like a dancing accident and you're knocked out, and he plays the father of a PCP dope dealer that Colt busted. And so he like takes you hostage in the hospital in exchange for his son, but that was a very dramatic episode written for your character, and you did a great job in that one. Do you remember John Vernon working with him?
Yes, he was lovely. As I say, everybody was so nice.
Yeah, and do you remember the one there was, now I sound like, this is like a get a life moment. You're like, it was a job, but there was a moment in a season 4 episode with John Vernon where he's like a total creep, and he's an alcohol, like a drunk, and he's hitting on you, and there's a funny scene where you roofie him, and you're supposed to give him a little dose of something to knock him out, and you pour the whole damn bottle in it, and I don't know. I thought that was funny, and that lends to mind that you did a lot of dancing in the Fall Guy. And my question is, Heather, are you a trained dancer?
No.
No, you just winged it?
Winged it.
Yeah, there's one where you're dancing in Tahiti, and I mean, tons of episodes where you're dancing, and you just did a fantastic job. Okay, well, I thought you must have been trained.
Much.
You did an awesome job. Let's see. Now, do you have any memories of working with Dana Hill? And she was like a younger actor.
Dana Hill was a dream. I'm really sad that when she passed.
Yeah, in 1996.
She was like our kid. We loved her.
You had some great scenes. I can't even play them because they're running on season 1 of Fall Guy, by the way, is on Amazon Prime. Heavily copyrighted, but you had some really touching scenes with Dana Hill in the first season, and I wanted to play that clip. But anyway, yeah, and she sadly passed in 96 from complications of diabetes. And most of you will know her from Shoot the Moon and from National Lampoon's European Vacation. She was the second Audrey. Anyway, I digress. And there was another good episode written for your character, Spring Break, that Ted Lange directed, that most people know as the bartender Isaac in The Love Boat. And I'll ask you about The Love Boat in just a moment. You were on that show a lot. And that was one where you had like this nerdy guy like me, and he's a college student. And I don't know if you remember this one. It's set in Palm Springs, California during spring break. And he's just trying to bust a move on you, but you wouldn't have anything of it. And you put him in his place, and it was a fun episode.
Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah,
you have to play it for me.
That's the sad thing, Heather, is that there's a whole generation that have not seen how much fun the Fall Guy is, but they're about to. When it starts streaming on Disney Plus, I've got a buddy that works at a digital house that converts. I probably shouldn't say this on the air, but he told me offline that they have a batch of episodes they're converting to digital format for Disney Plus. So people are about to discover how fun this is, and I think it's going to explode for you. You're going to have so many fan requests for autographs and stuff. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, thanks.
That must be interesting being a successful actress like you are. Like, it's like you probably don't. A lot of actors like Kevin Bacon has said, I don't like to watch myself. Maybe that's how you feel, but it's kind of neat. It's like a video yearbook, of your whole life captured forever on film. It's cool.
Well, you know what you were doing at that year.
Yeah.
You can kind of go back through your old episodes or go back through old acting jobs just to see what you were doing.
Yeah.
You go, oh, yeah, I was in that country, or oh, yeah, I was over there.
I asked Doug this. Did you guys film abroad ever, or was it all pretty much cheated, shot in California? All of your scenes were in Hawaii, for instance?
Which ones?
Well, like in Fall Guy, did you ever travel? Did the production company or the second unit ever, or first unit ever travel to Hawaii or San Francisco even? Did you go out of the state of California that you recall, or was it all done in pretty much?
I don't think we ever did. I think it was all manufactured. It wasn't like Love Boat where you actually go on a trip.
Yes, yes. Oh, I have a fan chiming in that wants to say hi to you. Joseph McSorley says hi, and he says that he and his deceased dad would watch your show every week. It was one of their things they did together.
Oh, I love that people have memories like that. Yeah, when there was fewer network stations, when there was just fewer, stations or streaming services, people had a commonality with what they watched. And we don't have as much of that anymore.
Yes, indeed. And you had a huge audience.
Get into a lot of problems.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you. I apologize.
That's okay.
Another fan, Jay Aarons, chimed in just now and asked, do you have a favorite stunt that you performed on The Fall Guy?
I did everything but jump from high places and catch on fire. I mean, Debbie would double me, but there was a lot of, like the fake fighting or stuff like that. They hung me from a helicopter a couple times.
Wow.
They do all sorts of goofy stuff with me.
Yeah, back then I think they took more liberties.
One of my favorites, I think at one point we were faking riding horses, so that was really funny.
Oh, man. Faking riding horse. Who was your stunt double again?
You sit on a chair and you act like you're galloping. It was pretty funny.
Who was your stunt double? Do you remember?
Yeah, Debbie Porter.
Cool.
She's an excellent stunt woman.
Was she your double for the whole 5 seasons of Fall Guy?
Yeah. She's perfect.
That's really cool. You're very athletic. I remember there was an episode where you went undercover, your character did, in a roller derby team. And you're on roller skates, and I could tell it was a double.
Most of that was me.
Wow.
That was one thing I knew how to do. And I trained with the Thunderbirds for that, the LA Thunderbirds with Ralphie Valderas. I think it was Frank Hall. I got to remember.
That's awesome. And in some episodes, you drove the truck, Colt's truck, that GMC Sierra 4x4. What was it like? Do you remember driving that? I mean, this is a dumb. Of course you remember, but what was it like to drive that truck, the stunt truck or the real one? What was that like? Because we have a lot of people that love that truck out there.
That truck was hard to hit a mark with. I had to really practice. They put a little thing the size of a dime down it and say put the right front tire on that at a 45-degree angle. Do a four-wheel slide into the shot. It's tricky. But you get used to it, like anything else.
I think your character was a great role model to men and women alike. I mean, you were fearless, smart. You were more than just eye candy. And I'm glad that there were some scripts that showed that in The Fall Guy. And I like the cars your character drove. In season 2, you had a blue Chevy Blazer, and then they gave you this slick white Pontiac Firebird to drive that they trashed in a couple episodes. That was cool. I actually have a model of it. I'll hold it up later for the camera, but anyway. But your character, Jody Banks, and Doug Barr's character, Howie Munson, to me, were a lot like Ellie Mae and Jethro in the Beverly Hillbillies. What were your favorite moments acting with Doug, and were there any bloopers, or was there a blooper reel? I think Doug said there was one.
There was a blooper reel. Well, there were so many practical jokes played on poor Doug. One time he was like begging for water, and the Crips had a big bucket of water above him, and they poured it on him. Or another time he had to eat the sandwich, and he had to eat what he thought was like a Hostess snowball, those pink balls with the coconut.
Yeah.
And someone put a sponge on it instead, and he tried to eat it. It was pretty funny.
Now, when people hear this after all the episodes are on Disney Plus, I want them to go back and look at a season 3 episode that you acted in, of course, titled Baker's Dozen, where Jody and the gang are on a mission to catch a bail jumper on a dude ranch. And at one point, your character and Howie have to enter a nude-only area of the resort. Now, obviously, this was network TV, so there was no real nudity, but the comedy of those scenes was very well played by both of you. And I just love the chemistry you had. And that actually was the first episode that dearly departed and dearly missed Markie Post was seen in a bikini on the show. She did 3 episodes in a bikini, and I read that she didn't necessarily like to do those kind of scenes where she's scantily clad. But anyway, the next thing I want to ask you about is the Love Boat. You took a couple voyages on the Love Boat, and including one time when you went to Japan. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was, everything you'd hope for. I got to go to Kyoto and Tokyo. What could be bad about that? It was fantastic.
That's awesome.
And it was the funniest show in the world. I mean, Harvey Korman, Ted Knight, John Ritter, and I was always friends with John and Nancy, and Rita Moreno. I remember we were in Tokyo, and we went to a drag show, and sure, it was so funny. They look at her, and sure enough, halfway through the show, a whole bunch of them came out like a West Side Story and started singing "A Boy Like That Will Kill Your Brother," and Rita just goes, "It happens every time." It's Rita Moreno, and. Just the splendor of Kyoto and to be able to go to Tokyo, it was so exciting for me.
That's so great. And they're bringing it back.
Tony Danza was on that too.
Yes, he was your love interest in that.
Yes, he was.
And they, of course, put you in your classic pink bikini. I'll ask you about your famous poster in a little bit, where you're wearing a pink bikini in a hot tub. And I had a question from a fan about shooting that. But yeah, the funny thing is, in the Love Boat, the costume people put you up, of course, in the pink bikini. And MeTV, when they aired that episode the first time, they cut that scene. And I couldn't believe it, because that was just a great scene from a guy's perspective. Now, on a serious note, the world really paused and took notice when Markie Post sadly passed away on Saturday, August 7th, 2021. Would you please share any stories or thoughts you have about working with Markie in The Fall Guy, seasons 2 through 4?
Markie was a consummate professional, and she worked really hard, and she went on to do a great sitcom, and it's just a shame.
It is.
Way too soon she passed.
It is. And in addition to Night Court, I liked Hearts of Fire she did with your friend John Ritter. That was cool. A cool show. Funny show. Yeah, yeah.
He passed way too soon as well.
Absolutely. In 2003, from that heart valve condition, it's just terrible. I don't think, it's just sad. And I know Amy Yazbek, his wife, is just devastated. It's horrible. Did you have a favorite director in Fall Guy?
No, I loved all of them. We basically had two. Dan, I want to say Dan and Bruce. Well, Dan and Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce.
Dan and Bruce.
Yeah, and there was Bruce Bilson, another Bruce.
Bilson, that was.
Yeah.
And what was Dan Hager? I loved him. They were both great.
Yeah,
so I basically had two.
Daniel Haller was a regular
Dan
director.
Haller, that was it.
Yeah. Now, and this was neat because what people may not know is you're a very good writer and an author. And back in the day, TV Guide published a clever and funny article you'd written about your experience filming the last season 4 episode of The Fall Guy, and you were on the cover of that issue. And
oh gosh, I remember that.
yeah, and I have it. I have it, of course, in my collection. I'll hold it up for the camera later. Along with other publicity stills from my collection. I went out to Hollywood in 2002. I've been out there many times on vacation, but I bought up just about every still I could find from The Fall Guy because I'm such a nut about that show. And I have a lot of your images up in the background. If you want to look at it later, I'll send you the link just to see the pictures, but you're probably like, no, I'm good. But in case you wanted to see some of the stills, it looks like a shrine. I look like the stereotypical scary guy that's obsessed with someone, but I just want to have visual aids. Oh dear. Would you please describe acting with Lee Majors?
No, Lee was a great technical teacher in that he explained how he taught me about how even though I went to film school, he goes, they're going to cut through this, or here, when you do this, it makes it easier for camera, or here's how to sell a punch. You know, he was just very, very generous.
Hey,
Great guy.
That's one of the best qualities one could have. Now, also, you worked a couple times with William Shatner. You guest starred in his 1980s action show, Aaron Spelling's T.J. Hooker. And
Yeah, and I played a hooker on T.J. Hooker.
I wasn't going to say it. I'm glad you did, Heather. That's hilarious. You did. And you also competed with Shatner as your team captain, how appropriate, back in the day on Battle of the Network Stars, which I'll ask.
Yeah, he was always team captain.
That is really cool. So what was it like working with Shatner? It looked like he was a little enamored with you, and who wouldn't be?
Oh, he was great. He was again a very generous actor. You know, I've been very lucky. I've worked with great people.
Yes, ma'am. And you know, I wish they'd bring back Battle of the Network Stars. That was fun. You know, that was. I don't know if it was for charity or was it just for laughs and a good time. But, you know, because of insurance reasons and lawsuits, they probably can't do that anymore, you know, these days. It's a shame.
I have no idea. I gave a portion of my money to charity. I think everybody did.
That's awesome, Heather. You're so athletic. God.
Thank you.
So great. Let's see here. You know, I'm going to shift past Fall Guy in just a sec, but there were some episodes that really were above average and very serious. And I talked about this with Doug. There was one episode in season 5, the episode's titled The Life of Riley, which dealt with the heartbreaking, serious subject matter of child abduction. That was when the milk carton campaign was hitting the public, and Peter Barton guest starred as a man desperately searching for his 5-year-old daughter. Anyway, how this pertains to you and your character is you and Howie go undercover to this lawyer, this scumbag lawyer, played by a great actor, Stanley Camel, is hiring goons to abduct kids off playgrounds so he can make money illegally adopting them to unsuspecting couples. And I love that episode. I'll play after our interview. I'll play a clip of it, but that was just a really good episode by a one-time director. And you guys worked together to bust the creep. Do you remember that episode at all?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, that was a good one. And Stanley Camel, who played the attorney that was illegally adopting and kidnapping kids, went on to act in Beverly Hills 90210 and among other projects. Anyway, and he's no longer with us, unfortunately. That was a good, serious episode. Now, here's some questions from some of your fans from all over the world. Alexander Nevermind, I don't know if that's his real last name,
I doubt it.
He's in Singapore. And he asked you, Heather, were you ever in any dangerous stunts on The Fall Guy?
No.
Okay. And you had once said in an Entertainment Tonight interview about 20 years ago.
Intentionally. I think Doug and I got blown up off a motorcycle once, but that was it.
Oh, damn.
Well, we had one year where we had a very enthusiastic special effects guy.
That's a very diplomatic way of putting it. Sounds like he was careless. Damn.
He's very enthusiastic.
Let's see. And you once said in an Entertainment Tonight interview about 20 years ago that Fall Guy wasn't Shakespeare, but it was a fun show to shoot. And,
Right.
you know, this is a very general question, but was it the most fun that you had in your acting career, you think?
Oh, there's fun elements to every job, but Fall Guy was special.
Absolutely. And how much Heather Thomas is and was there in Jody Banks and vice versa?
You kind of start to meld together with a character when you've played them that long. There's a portion of me that, that character is always going to be alive.
And personality too. I mean, that's your personality.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And infuse it with, your own stuff.
Now,
That's the job for every character.
Well said. If you could write an updated script for Jody Banks, in your mind, where is she right now? What's she doing?
Oh, she's probably got a stunt school, wouldn't you think?
Yep.
Teaching young girls, yeah.
Now, as we start to pivot past the Fall Guy, did you keep any props or items or wardrobe from the Fall Guy? Any scripts, anything like that?
Well, I've got all my Fall Guy jackets and stuff like that, and hats and all that, but I've got scripts, I've got a couple of pieces of furniture, I think.
Wow, that's cool. And I have to tell you, Heather, when you watch these on film, I have a pretty cool setup for screening these 16 millimeter films of all the episodes. The sounds piped through a board and five speakers, and I have a 65 millimeter lens, so it's super. It's better than HD, and it really is like a theatrical experience. It's a lot of fun. It's such a treat to speak with you because I'll watch them every 5 years or so, and just. I never thought I'd have the opportunity to speak with you. This is just a real treat.
Thank you.
Another one.
That was fun.
It is fun. And another one of your fans is in England, Peter Gibson. He is a Zapped fan as well as Fall Guy, but he's more of a Zapped guy. And like I said, he's in England. He started a Facebook group devoted to the movie Zapped. And of course, in that movie, as you know, you played a mean, snobby cheerleader named Jane.
Mm-hmm.
Peter asks if you're ever pressured to do revealing scenes, and how do you feel about Zapped all of these years later?
Oh, well, I was pressured to do the nudity, and my contract said no nudity, so I didn't do it.
Good for you.
Body double, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. There was that one scene used, and there was like a provocative still photo where they used a double.
That's not me.
Yeah, right. And my thought
the
was...
still photo in that scene are not me.
Yes, ma'am. And my thought was that maybe 20th Century Fox and ABC would not be happy if clothes came off in that movie for one of their TV stars. I might be wrong. But anyway...
It had nothing to do with that. It was personal choice.
Very good. Very good.
That's the way I conducted myself.
Do you remember, Heather, was that filmed after season 1 of Fall Guy wrapped, or was it during the tail end of season 1? I'm just curious about the timing.
No. It was filmed after the pilot of Fall Guy, I think.
Oh, okay. Like before it was picked up as a weekly series?
Something like that.
Okay, yeah, because it came out July 23rd, 82. It's about to have a big anniversary.
It was after the pilot was picked up.
Very good. I always wanted to know that. Thank you.
Well, I know I shot it after I shot the Fall Guy pilot.
Very cool. Now I know. That's great. Do you have any Zapped stories or co-star moments? Anything about Felice or Willie Ames or the amusement park scenes?
Yeah, they were all great. Everybody was really nice, and I remember I got to hang out with Scatman Crothers, which was a really big treat.
God bless him, man. He died way too young, a long time ago. I think in 1986 or so. Yeah, he's one of my favorites. Except I didn't like The Shining because of what happened to him. When there's personalities I like, even in fiction, I don't like to see bad things happen to them. That's why I'm not a big fan of Cyclone, a movie you did, because it was so sadistic what they did to your character in that movie. And I digress. That was Dar Robinson's last movie, by the way. Speaking of stuntmen, God, so sad. Anyway, let's see. So now, like Farrah Fawcett, you of course had a hot-selling wall poster that made people in Generation X adore during puberty. I'd imagine that's the number one item that fans ask you to autograph. Is that true? I thought so. That's just God, it's a classic poster. I had it. My friends had it. Do you know the numbers? Like,
It's the highest selling in history. I know he's broken that record.
woo! So you beat the Farrah poster. Wow, that's cool. Oh, here's a question about that poster from another fan of yours named John Kelly. He asks, Heather, how many pictures did the photographer take for your pink bikini poster, and who decides which shot is the one?
I do with my manager, and there were a lot of outtakes that are all floating around. People are selling those now.
Yes. And, I don't know if that's good or bad.
If they say they have the rights to them, they're full of beans.
Oh, yeah. They're full of crap. And John Kelly also asks, quote, Heather, I respect you for your mind, but you got some damn good assets, unquote. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, now you already talked about the Love Boat. I'm going out of order of my questions here. I don't want to be repetitive. We're starting to run out of time here. Battle Network stars. Oh, yeah. So Cyclone, the movie I talked about, that was a 1987 release. Mm-hmm. Martin Landau, the late, great Oscar winner, was in that. Troy Donahue was in that. What about
Landau was in it.
Do you have any stories about Martin Landau, working with him?
He was great. He was the last. If you knew him in person, you'd see what a good actor he is, because he's not an evil man at all. He's a lovely man.
He was an awesome actor, and I met him on set of a movie he did in 2013. It was a TV movie for Lifetime, the Anna Nicole story, and he played Marshall, the wealthy wheelchair-bound philanthropist. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we're at a fitting. I was just an extra. I was nothing, but he shows up for a fitting, and I see him, and I go, Commander Koenig, because I'm a big nerd. I loved Space 1999 and Mission Impossible, and he smiled, and we had lunch together. It's just a very, very happy memory, one-on-one with him for a whole lunch for about an hour.
Wow.
It was just wonderful.
That's great.
Yeah, and let's see. Oh, I have to ask you about this. One of my favorite pieces of video of you, Heather, was from a very brief moment in time on the original game show Family Feud, in which you were competed on a team for charity. When the original English host, Richard Dawson, kissed you, I thought I would die. I mean, actually, he didn't kiss you. You kissed him, and you gave Dawson this slow, wonderful kiss. And I thought the man was going to go into cardiac arrest. I mean, that had to be the best kiss Dawson ever got on Family Feud. Now, I know it's kind of creepy in retrospect. This guy would kiss as many women as he possibly could on his show. Total opportunist. But then again, to defend him a little bit, that was a different time. He's British, different mannerisms, different customs. But that episode with your kiss was finally released on DVD by Fremantle Media in 2005, and I have it. And it's on YouTube. It's worth a look. But Heather, do you have a story about competing on Family Feud for that event in the 80s?
Oh, gosh, I don't remember, but I don't even remember what charity I competed for.
I should have wrote that down. Darn it. Shame on me. I would like to have enlightened you on that. But, and then I think Catherine Bach was in it. And, I had to ask you a question. This is kind of...
Bach is still one of my very best friends.
Oh, right. Daisy Duke herself.
She is my girl, yeah.
What about Heather Locklear? Are you friends with her?
No, I'm not. She's not in my sphere, but I have nothing against her.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean...
There was never an actual rivalry, if that's what you're asking.
Good. I'm glad, because the fans, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of men that...
never happened.
Well, they compare, and you always win, by the way. Heather Locklear, Heather Thomas. You always win that debate. It's like Ginger or Marianne or something. Anyway, for what it's worth. Oh, but let's see. Oh, I've got to ask you about this. There was a lot of people in the Nostalgic Podblast audience that are handicapped or have difficulties, physical difficulties. And a while ago, back in September 1986, you were involved in an accident that left you paralyzed when you were struck by a car while you were crossing.
I was never paralyzed.
You weren't. So I'm reading National Enquirer garbage.
Yes.
Oh.
I was never paralyzed. I had a knee injury. My knee works great.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to ask, for inspiration for anyone. Because in all seriousness, I didn't mean to give false hope to anyone that's struggling with physical challenges, but I just want people to know you should never stop. You should never quit living or stop doing better every single day.
Oh yeah, they told me I wouldn't walk, again, and I said, "Phooey." I was walking within a month.
But okay, so it was due to a knee injury you weren't walking, not because of a spinal cord injury.
No,
Got it.
I think it was because they thought my peroneal nerve had been damaged and I'd have drop foot, but I didn't.
Awesome. Well, you have always had just a fantastic physique. What is your secret for staying in shape?
Just be aware of what you're eating. I try and eat more keto and exercise.
Excellent, excellent. And I saw some photos you did with Arnold Schwarzenegger for fitness magazines. That's interesting. Do you have any tale about working with Arnold or any memories?
Arnold's great. He's great. Great guy. Good businessman.
Cool. What TV shows do you like to watch, Heather?
Right now?
Yeah.
Well, I love Stranger Things, of course. Who doesn't? I loved watching that. I loved Mandalorian. I loved Boba Fett. I loved, what else did I like? I loved Peaky Blinders, Succession, Hacks. I thought Hacks was brilliant. Gene Smart was brilliant.
Who Doug worked
so much
with.
Good TV.
Yeah, Doug on Designing Women back in the day.
Good TV. It's really hard not to watch it.
I'm loving hearing that you dig a little bit of sci-fi. You mentioned Mandalorian. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, sure, I dig sci-fi. I dig all of it.
Do you like the Marvel movies? I would love to see you in a Marvel film.
Of course I love the Marvel movies.
Hot dog! This is kind of a strange question. Do you have a favorite animal, like a pet? Are you a dog gal or cats?
I had a parrot for 41 years. He just passed last year. I'm still mourning over that. Right now I have dogs and chickens.
Oh, I'm so sorry about your parrot. I have a pet bunny rabbit. First time I ever had a bunny, and
sweet.
yeah, she is sweet. I found her when I was out for a walk last September. One of my favorite comedians is Chelsea Handler, and I was delighted when you appeared on her former cable TV show Chelsea Lately. Was that fun?
Oh, that was a fun show.
That's cool. And you've written a book. What's the name of your book?
Trophies. It's a kind of a weird, goofy romp. I was exposed to a lot of charity things, when I was not working, and I was, I'm married to a pretty prominent guy in the business, and so, you get involved in charities, and I just had to write about it. It's about trophy wives. It's pretty funny.
We have so many comments coming in. Trophy wives. I'm gonna buy your book.
It's Trophies. Trophies is the name of the book.
Excellent. Trophies. Where can you find it? Is it on Amazon or?
Yeah. What happened was when I wrote it, HarperCollins was in a war with Judith Reagan, and the woman who fired her bombarded my book into the romance section. It was not a romance; it's a comedy. But you can probably get it from Amazon or somewhere like that.
Well, you have a lot of comments coming in. Sherry Dalton says she was by far the most beautiful woman on TV, in my honest opinion. Shane B says, hello, Heather.
Hello, Shane.
Mark Hambrick, wow, ask more questions. It's awesome. Okay. There's just so many here as we start to wrap
How
up
much
this.
time do we have left?
Oh, we're about to wrap. Do you need to run?
Soon.
Okay. Well, let me just conclude with a couple more comments and questions. Let's see here. Oh, let's see here. Now you have a big event coming up. I mentioned it at the very beginning of the interview, but we must reiterate that you're going to have a meet and greet Labor Day weekend in Orlando, Florida at Fanboy Expo.
Yeah.
Are you going to do a panel, or are you just going to sign things? What's the itinerary?
I have no idea.
Can I ask you to just, if you don't want to, I understand you're a paid professional. Would you mind saying, this is Heather Thomas from The Fall Guy. You're listening to the Nostalgic Podblast?
Okay, when do you want me to say it?
Anytime.
This is Heather Thomas from The Fall Guy. You're listening to the Nostalgic Podcast.
Podblast. Thank you, Heather. That's great.
Podblast. Do you want me to say it again?
If you don't mind.
This is Heather Thomas. You're listening to the Nostalgic Podblast.
Perfect. Excellent. And I just want to say, Heather, it's been a true honor and a joy to finally, quote unquote, meet and speak with you.
Thank you. This was fun.
I'll probably be in Orlando. I have so many things that I must get autographed.
Come see me.
Yes, I will. And that's Labor Day weekend, September 2nd through the 4th in Orlando, Florida. And this has just been a great thrill. I'm going to play some clips of you on Fall Guy after you clear the line here. I want to thank you again, Heather. I maybe in a year or so, I would love to interview you again if you have something you'd like to promote. You're a joy. Okay. It's been a dream come true to interview you.
Oh, thank you. It's been delightful.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas, and have a good one, and my best to you and your family and Skip.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Heather Thomas, everybody. How about that? Was that cool or what? And I apologize if I didn't see your questions. I've been asking the last several days for you to comment with your questions for Heather. I read as many as I could. But what a joy. That's great. So I had Doug Barr from the Fall Guy on the Nostalgic Podblast, and now Heather Thomas. So that's fantastic. But do check her out at Fanboy Expo in Orlando. Lee Majors will be there as well. At least he's listed on the website as being. So there's like a mini Fall Guy reunion. Hopefully Doug will be there. Doug's a very busy businessman, so I don't know if he has time. Labor Day weekend, he may have other plans because it is a holiday weekend. But darn it, I meant to wish Heather an upcoming happy birthday in September. It's not for a while, but I wanted to wish her a happy birthday. But if she's watching this, happy birthday, Heather. And thanks for being on the show. That's great. Now, one thing that Heather does that's really cool, when she autographs something, I meant to ask her if this is legit. She signs her name and then says love and luck. I like that. And she also has said, which I read, and again, maybe it's not true, like she just dispelled the fact she was never paralyzed. She just was temporarily immobilized due to a knee injury, which was hit by a car back in '86. But she has said, allegedly, never compete with others, compete with yourself. And I like that too. And she's coming back. She's coming back, most likely, knock on wood, in a cameo appearance in the new Fall Guy movie, which will be filming in Australia, starring Ryan Gosling. And I don't know what role he's going to play. It's not been announced, but he has signed a contract. And I want to see Doug Barr and, of course, Lee Majors in that movie as well. Man, that's great. You know, when God created Heather Thomas, the mold was put on ice. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if not for Heather Thomas hitting the scene when she did, I don't know if we'd have a Donna Dixon, a Lydia Cornell, or a Heather Locklear. I mean, I don't know. Now, those actresses definitely were a type, like just a blonde bombshell type. But to me, none compared to Heather Thomas, in my opinion. But I like those actors I mentioned too. Lydia Cornell has been on the RetroZest podcast with Curtis, and I hope to interview her as well. But Heather, she's near and dear to my heart. And it all started with Zapped, and then I got into Fall Guy because she was in the cast. And I have Zapped. I didn't mention this to Heather on film as well. Mint print, low fade color, just like most of my Fall Guys. They're Fuji color prints. And I'm telling you, man, it's like watching a theatrical film. Now let's listen to a couple clips of Heather on the Fall Guy. Just a couple scenes. This is from a season 2 episode titled Hell on Wheels that we talked about, where she is infiltrating a roller derby gang. And where is that? Yeah, it's called Hell on Wheels from season 2, and it's on YouTube. But on YouTube, that's from the 2007 European DVD release. It's sped up. It's from a PAL source, meaning the frames per second were sped up. So the actors' voices sound like Mickey and Minnie Mouse, and the music doesn't sound right, but it's the best I could find. Here's a little bit of a scene from the episode Hell on Wheels with Heather in the roller derby gang.
Look, Elizabeth, I know that you could probably break me in half, but I'm going to have to level with you. I'm not really a roller derby skater. I'm more like an actress. I do stunts in the movies.
So now you do this. No big deal?
No, listen to me. When there's no work, I help out friends of mine, 2 friends who are bounty hunters.
Those 2 guys in the LA?
Yeah, but they're really stuntmen, too. And to pick up some money,
So that's why you're here? To pick me up for some money on the side?
Elizabeth, please. Now, you assaulted that guy in Washington. There had to be some reason.
Sure there was. There were two of them, and they were jumping on Marv Jackson. And Marv happens to be a friend of mine.
Then why were you arrested?
It turned out they were detectives. Then they wanted me to identify Marv, and I wouldn't.
What for?
I don't know. I didn't cooperate with them, so they didn't exactly fill me full of information. They charged me with assault to gain leverage, I guess.
You know, Elizabeth, maybe Marv is not that great guy that you think he is. Maybe the police really do have a case against him.
Marv gave me a life to live.
Blind loyalty can be very expensive.
You really messed up, Robertson. I mean, you really messed up.
Okay.
Hey, that wasn't my fault, pal.
There's one scene. Now, here's a scene with Doug and Heather from a very serious episode. It was the first one filmed for season 4 called Sandcastles. It was a solo story about Jody Banks, played by Heather Thomas, of course, falling in love with her bail jumper that she's there to capture in Hawaii. And so Doug has a little heart-to-heart with Heather about her dilemma.
Hi. Look, I know how you feel. Believe me, it's only natural.
Yeah.
Sure. It'd be strange if you felt otherwise.
Oh, Howie, you're all right. I just feel so guilty.
Well, of course you do. Hey, you met this guy. Maybe he fell for you, maybe you fell for him, whatever. He looked at you like a friend. He saw you as somebody he could trust. And you had to finger him. You had to send him to jail.
Her facial
I mean,
expression.
I'm sure you feel like you stabbed Adrian in the back. You twisted it and betrayed him. It's perfectly understandable that you should feel guilty. I mean, who wouldn't?
Oh, yeah.
No. Don't thank me. I'm just glad that I could be here for you.
So her face is just, she's not really happy with his consolation there. Now, here's a quick clip that I talked about with Jody and Howie undercover talking to the scumbag attorney that is illegally adopting kids that are stolen to the heartbreak of their parents.
This is a difficult situation. Adoption will not be easy.
Well, you said on the phone you thought you could help us. Otherwise, we wouldn't have come over.
No, I didn't say it was impossible, but because of your record, the amount of strings that need to be pulled in order to speed up the adoption process is considerable.
You have our full cooperation, Mr. Trent.
Good. Now, first of all, this is going to be very expensive.
We already told you money's no object.
We're talking in the neighborhood of $50,000.
Well, if that's what it takes, fine.
Good. Now, second of all, and most important, because of the long waiting list involved with adoptions, if word were to get out that you receive special treatment, undoubtedly there would be unfavorable reaction.
Oh, we won't say anything.
Well, you'll be doing yourself a service. See, the state can take away your child as quickly as they give you one.
We understand.
Good. Now, the other part...
Excuse me, I hate to interrupt, Mr. Trenton, but I need to talk to you for a couple of minutes.
Forgive me, this is obviously a business matter. I won't be but a moment. Why don't you take this time to think about the sex and the age of the child you'd like, and I'll be right back.
Just take your time. That was right. Trenton must have arranged Riley's kidnapping.
Yeah, you know what scares me is how many others there may have been. We gotta call Cobb.
No, first we'll get some physical evidence. I'm gonna nail this guy good.
What are you two doing here?
Just thought you'd like to know. We won't be bothered by that bounty hunter anymore.
Excellent.
We gotta hurry, Howie.
There's no file with Gordon's name on it.
I don't know, maybe it's under some sort of a code or something.
Wait. Here's our file. But it's grouped with files that are listed only by numbers.
Grab it and get out of here, come on.
What are you two doing? Rusty! Andy, get in here!
Right, thank you. Howie and Jody left a message they were going over to Trenton's over an hour ago. They should have checked in by now.
Maybe they got delayed.
That's what I'm afraid of. Well, I'm not waiting around any longer. Trenton's office is only 3 blocks from here. They tried to kill us. They're not going to stop now. Come on.
I don't know who you two are. but you're going to be very sorry you ever set foot in this office.
You're the one who's going to be sorry, Trenton, and I just wish I was sitting on the jury that's going to put you away.
No, see, that's never going to happen.
Don't be so sure. Cole knows exactly what you're up to.
All right, you're working for Sievers. Well, then there's no problem. See, he doesn't know anything. Dead men can't think. My friends took care of that.
Hey,
Rusty, I presume you'll take care of these two?
You take care of them, Mr. Trenton. It's just as much your problem as mine. I'm going to get the little girl. She's the only one tying me to this.
Rusty, you're going to ruin everything.
No more orders.
No more orders.
Well,
so that's Stanley Camel, and the guy in the scene with Lee Majors as Colt Sievers, that's Peter Barton. He starred in a show called The Powers of Matthew Starr. It didn't last long. With Amy Steele, who you might remember from Friday the 13th, Part 2. She played Ginny, spelled Ginny, who outsmarted Jason when she pretended to be Mrs. Voorhees in Friday the 13th, Part 2. But I digress. This is like a 5-second clip from a Season 2 episode of Fall Guy titled P.S. I Love You with Dana Hill, whom we talked about, who passed in 1996. And this is just a brief example. You have to listen closely of how Jody Banks really liked Howie. In the show, she acted like she thought he was a dork and a nerd, and they sort of butted heads. But as the show progressed, they had a nice brotherly, sisterly relationship. And like I said, it was like the 1960s Beverly Hillbillies in the vein of comedy and camaraderie. You know, it was like Ellie Mae and Jethro in the Beverly Hillbillies, but in the 80s. So what's happening in this scene, this is in Palm Springs. And some girl pushes Doug Barr's character, Howie Munson, into a swimming pool. And you'll hear Jody Banks, played by Heather Thomas, say, "Hey, you can't do that to Howie." And I always like that little moment because she defends him. Let me see if I can get this here. Yeah, god damn it.
Children allowed. Not my daughter.
That's it, Buster! I'll show you!
Dana Hill. Right there. And in the scene, everyone gets thrown into the pool. Heather Thomas, everyone but Lee Majors, Colt Sievers, gets thrown into the swimming pool. Okay, that's all I had to say about that. But just, I got to thank again, Curtis of the RetroZest Podcast and Heather's assistant for making this possible. And of course, Heather herself. So thank you for that. And I have a nice song dedicated to Heather Thomas for the end of the show. I'm only going to go another maybe 35 minutes to an hour tops today, because I want Heather to be the primary focus of the Nostalgic Podblast episode 104. And if you're listening at fistfulofradio.com, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Nostalgic Podblast on YouTube, or join the growing Facebook group, The Nostalgic Podblast. It's more like a blog of things we all remember of days gone by, but we keep an eye on the present as well. And when there's someone passes away that's notable, I always try to keep you updated on that information as well, so we can remember great talents that we loved. Item. Now, I must thank a gentleman, James Enstall of Geek to Me Radio, which is on a huge radio station in St. Louis, Missouri, KTRS. And by the way, his show, he interviews a lot of people in the business behind the camera and in front of the camera on his show, which airs Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Central and Mountain Time, where he's at in St. Louis, and 10 p.m. Sunday nights back east, and 7 p.m. Pacific Time. And what happened was, I'm going to play a little clip of me on his show. There was a trivia contest, and this was easy. And the people in his studio didn't think I'd do so well. It's a very brief clip, but I won some prizes I want to show on camera that James Enstall's team at Geek to Me Radio KTRS mailed me. And I've been meaning to thank him. I meant to mention this in the last Podblast because I've had these things for weeks. It just slipped my mind. But here I am briefly playing trivia. Now, anyone out there in the Podblast, you're a very educated group. You would nail these questions too, especially if you're in Generation X. But this was a lot of fun being on his show. Here it is. And here's a brief clip of me on James's show.
The official movie sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio. We have a Bill Cleveland's Trivia Night reunion. We are playing trivia, and we had a caller, Chance, longtime listener, has called in, and he is going to take a stab at our TV theme song trivia. Chance, how are you? Oh, hold on. Now, Chance, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm a big fan of the show.
Thanks for. We always see you in the chats, and I appreciate your watching us, tuning in, and everything like that. How's your TV theme song trivia?
It's pretty sharp.
Good. All right. Well, this shouldn't be a problem then, because I picked some easy ones.
Pretty sharp, he says.
Yeah. See, Bill's going to challenge you. He'll probably want me to find some more difficult ones, because Bill was always a taskmaster with the trivia. I'm a little more laid back. So let's see what we got here. Let's start with this one. I will play a little bit of it, and I'll pause, and then you tell me what it is. Here we go.
Three's Company.
Oh,
all right.
good.
I think he had that in like 4 notes. That was pretty impressive. Let's go ahead and give you another one, because that was obviously fairly easy. Let's do this one, see if it's a little more challenging for you.
Barney Miller.
All right. So I'm not going to push it any further. I think that was pretty. Nikki's got a fun. You didn't like Barney Miller, did you, Nikki?
I did like Barney Miller.
I hate that show. I think
Did
it's
you
dumb.
really hate?
They play it on.
It's a police show, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
no,
remember
I
that.
don't.
Hate this. I've never
well,
heard anyone
hate-
just
okay, maybe
come
not
out
hate.
One of the
swinging against Barney
characters
Miller.
on
Not a
there was a
fan.
really
Abe
good
Vigoda, for
dresser.
crying out loud.
Just not a fan.
How
no,
can you not like
sorry.
Abe Vigoda?
Not a fan.
Who's that?
I don't even know what we're talking
Was
about.
that the star of the show?
It's like nothing ever changed.
Supporting. He was a supporting
That was
actor.
the star
yeah.
of the show.
That's right. Yes, he played Fish on Barney Miller.
Yeah.
Abe
And there was
Vigoda.
a spin-off, Fish.
That was just kind of like we got After MASH from MASH, and we got The Jeffersons was a spin-off of
All in the
Archie
Family.
Bunker.
On the family.
yes,
Yeah.
Archie Bunker. But
Yeah.
yes, Nikki was right in there. Chance. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put your name in a drawing, and you'll be notified if you win, which you might be because no one else has called in yet. So. We will get your phone number. Nikki will take your information and give you a nice recipe.
Really?
No, I'm kidding. Nikki used to answer phones. I'm just giving her trouble. But she does have some great recipes coming, so
Yeah.
keep an eye on the website for those. Chance, thanks very much. I'll put you back on hold. No, actually, I'm just going to let you go. I've got your number, so we'll let you know if you are a winner.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling in. Appreciate it.
Good
Take care,
job.
buddy.
All right. Bye. Thanks.
Bye. There he goes.
He did a good job.
He did. He got 2 for 2 on those. That was
They were
impressive.
easy.
I
That was
didn't even hear
easy.
the
That was
second
easy
one even
stuff.
go.
They were
He got
easy,
it.
but he got them super fast. He got them like on the second or third note.
Okay, so we'll let the children try this. We'll let you two see if you can.
So thank you, James, for that. Now I'm going to show you what prizes they sent me. It was actually more stuff than I thought they would send. And someone else did call in, so it was like a 50-50 shot, and I guess I won the drawing, so woohoo! Now, let me just show you. He sent a Masters of the Universe sealed toy. I don't collect this stuff, and I'm not knocking it. I'm very grateful for these items. I'm just saying, and I will never depart with these. I'm going to keep these forever because I appreciate James's team mailing this to me. And then he sent this figure, a Professor, the Legends of... Here, another sealed action figure, not a doll. It's an action figure. Can you see that on camera? Sorry, listeners, if you're just listening. I know this is kind of boring. We're going to move on to something else that's audio friendly. Now, this was my favorite of all. Back to the Future Biff Tannen action figure. But it's strange looking. Look, he's kind of distorted. But remember Biff? One of my favorite lines of his was from Back to the Future 2, where these kids are playing ball with a basketball in the street. And the ball goes in Biff's path. And they go, give me the ball, give me the ball. We'll give you the ball. And he slams it up onto the patio of a house. He goes, well, go get it. I don't know. He's just such an ass. That was the funny thing about him. But he always got his comeuppance, whether it was manure in the mouth in the original Back to the Future. But what a character. But I think Back to the Future Part 2 is my favorite. I know that's blasphemy to a lot of fans out there that like the original film. But I like the whole concept, even though you didn't have the original girlfriend. But, you know, you can't go wrong with Adventures of Babysitting star Elizabeth Shue taking over the role of Marty McFly's girlfriend. But I like the original as well. So look at that. Isn't that neat? Biff Tannen. That is perfect for me. Totally suitable. I'm not a bully, but I'm kind of an ass. I'm kind of an a-hole at times. So he sent all that stuff. He sent all these items, but that Back to the Future made my day. So thank you to Geek to Me Radio and James Enstall. I had to give you a proper thank you. Item. It's time for our nostalgic word or expression of the week. And this time, the nostalgic expression, which is somewhat dated, is tacky. T-A-C-K-Y. According to Webster's dictionary, tacky, an adjective. Tackier, tackiest. Definition of tacky. 1. Not having or exhibiting good taste, such as A. Marked by cheap showiness, gaudy, a tacky publicity stunta tacky outfit. What is stunta? I don't know. This could be a definition for Al Hardy. I'm kidding, Al. Just kidding. We're friends. I'm just kidding. Another definition for tacky. Marked by a lack of style, dowdy. The origin of the word tacky goes back to the 19th century. Here is an unknown origin that I found, so I don't know why I'm reading it. If it's unknown, it's unknown. But the early use was a noun denoting a horse of little value, later applied to a poor white in some southern states of the U.S., hence, quote, shabby, cheap, in bad taste from the mid-19th century. Wow, so that's kind of a racial thing. I never knew that. I just remember watching old Match Game episodes on Buzzer or Game Show Network, and who really used that expression a lot was Joanne Flug, who was on Fall Guy Season 1. I meant to ask Heather about Joanne Flug. She's from Atlanta, where I'm located originally, and she was married to Chuck Woolery for a long time. They're no longer together, and she's still with us, Joanne Flug, and she's was the character of the Belle Bondswoman in Season 1 of Fall Guy. She took over the role from Janet Leigh, and that was cool. Heather Thomas talking about working with Janet Leigh, and she had strong memories of that. Thought that was awesome. So eventually, the character of Samantha Big Jack was cast with Joanne Flug in that role, and Joanne Flug was in the original MASH movie from 1970. Robert Altman's directed it. The director Robert Altman directed that classic film, and then she left the show. I assume because the writers were not giving her much to do, but there were some episodes where she was featured pretty prominently, but not that many. And I think that's what happened with Markie Post. Markie Post took over the role as a different character. She supposedly was working for Samantha Jack as she goes through law school. And Terry Shannon was introduced, and they changed the name to Terry Michaels, played by Markie Post, is the bail bonds person that Colt and crew worked for on the side to capture bail jumpers. But I remember getting back to tacky. She used that word a lot on Match Game for some reason. Joanne Flug, she'd go, oh, this is so tacky. But you don't hear that word much anymore. Tacky. So, item, let's move on here. There is a big event coming up. Now, this is kind of dated. By the time you hear this, it's probably going to be over with. I haven't done a show in a month. I took a month off. I've been doing some traveling. I've been busy with other things. So I haven't done a Podblast in over a month. So I should have done this sooner. But a shout out to the Southern Fried Game Room Expo, which is a yearly 3-day classic arcade game and video game convention in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And it's this coming weekend, July 15th through the 17th at the Cobb Waverly Hotel. For one low price, you can play games. And you don't need quarters or tokens. You just pay one low admission price, and you can enjoy an adult beverage. And there's lots of other events and guests, too. One time, Lance Guest was there as a special guest a couple years ago, and he was the star of The Last Starfighter, which was a video game movie where the guy sucked into the video game. It's from the 80s. It was kind of a knockoff on Tron. But I like that movie. And he was there talking about that movie. He was in Halloween 2. He played this guy working at the hospital that was infatuated with Lori, played by, of course, the Scream Queen, Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween 2. Anyway, I digress. And they had live wrestling once at a couple times at the Southern Fried Gaming Expo. There's also a marketplace, and you can buy classic arcade games for sale. Most of the ones that you play have a sticker, a price tag, where you can buy these items and load them into your truck or SUV. So that's kind of cool. So shout out to Southern Fried Game Room Expo. Check it out. And if it's too late, if you hear this in August after the event has happened, there's pinball events all over the country and all over the world. It's had a huge comeback. In Las Vegas, you have the National Pinball Museum. I've been there back in November 2017. Loved it. In the Nashville, Tennessee area, you have a place called Game Galaxy, which is incredible. I haven't been there since 2015. I went there twice, and they've moved since then. I think they're in Smyrna, Tennessee, New Smyrna or Smyrna, Tennessee, near Nashville. But it's a fantastic operation, hundreds and hundreds of games, and a very fair price. And, of course, here in town, you have Portal Pinball, which is about to open in a brand new facility in Ackworth, Georgia. And they're going to be open pretty much year-round. I think they're closed on Mondays, but they have a brand new facility, and they have a liquor license now. That's why they moved out of the Kennesaw area, because the city wouldn't work with them. Well, Ackworth is working with them. So they're about to have a grand reopening in a bigger facility, and they have a cool, like, Frozen Han Solo they've teased on their social media page. It's wild. He's frozen. It's like the cover of like a refrigerator, I think. And it's the Frozen Han Solo from Empire Strikes Back, right? On the slab. It's pretty cool, man. But yeah, check out Portal Pinball. Go to their Facebook page. Really cool. Now, got to talk about Remind Magazine. And they might want to interview Heather Thomas in print before her appearance in Orlando. Want to remind everyone about a special deal. Now, if you're here, the chances are you like nostalgia. Well, this magazine can be in your mailbox once a month for only $12 for the entire year. That's $1 per issue, of course. That's all it'll cost. There's full color photos, interviews with your favorite stars, personalities, creators, and more. And Remind Magazine offers a fresh take on popular entertainment from days gone by. And each issue has dozens of brain-teasing puzzles, trivia quizzes, classic comics, and monthly themed features from the 1950s to the 1990s. That's their wheelhouse. And it's written on an adult level. But it reminds me of the book fairs when we were kids, Generation X kids, where you'd get Dynamite magazine and then you could subscribe and get it in your mailbox. I love getting a monthly magazine in the mail, whether it's Sports Illustrated, what have you. I know print, they say print is dead. And yes, it's dying in the digital age, but that's what I like. I want to keep print alive, and that's what Remind Magazine is doing. So you'll get that in your mailbox each and every month, just like the good old days. And, and like comic book subscriptions, remember you could, I think you still can, but I used to subscribe to comic book subscriptions for Marvel Comics. And the only bad thing was sometimes the postman would bend the issue, so you'd have a subscription crease, but I digress. Well, Remind Magazine is there for you for just $12. That's a limited time offer. Your entire family will love it. It makes a great birthday gift. What can you buy for $1 anymore? I mean, even the dollar stores are raising their prices and changing the very names of their stores to adapt to the changing and rising inflation we're all suffering through in the world right now in 2022. But here's how you can subscribe and get a happy vibe when you subscribe. Hey, I just thought of that. I'm going to add that to my script for Remind Magazine. Subscribe and get a happy vibe. Just go to remindmagazine.com. That's remindmagazine.com, or call toll free. Do you have a pen or a pencil? You know what that is? Call toll free 855-773-6463. That's 855-773-6463. And you can order over the phone with your credit card. It's secure. It's safe. If you don't want to do internet, just call up and speak with the friendly operator 24/7 at 855-773-6463 to start your trip down memory lane, courtesy of Remind Magazine. And please mention the nostalgic Podblast when you order. So now, a couple of weekly things we do each and every edition of the Nostalgic Podblast, although it's been monthly. You know what I got to do? Well, I'll do this in a moment. But let's talk about this. I have sad news to report. Just one story this time, because there's a lot more, but it happened a while back, and I haven't done a show in a while. We lost a musical genius and a pop culture icon recently, back on July 11th, 2022. Composer Monty Norman passed away at the age of 94. Back in 1962, James Bond producer Albert Broccoli hired Monty Norman to compose the very first James Bond film, Dr. No, in 1962. And thus, Monty created the iconic James Bond musical theme. Let's listen to a little bit of the James Bond theme. This is a reorchestration. I'll give full credit to this guy who did it because, for obvious reasons, copyright and the bots, they will get me for playing the original James Bond theme. But here is a wonderful cover. This is from the YouTube channel Squid Physics. This is from 6 years ago, but he played every instrument in this. One man did, like Todd Rundgren style. If you know Todd Rundgren, I'm in the click. I love Todd Rundgren. He can play multiple instruments as well. But back on task here. Here's the James Bond theme that was created by Monty Norman. The video's worth a look because you see him performing all the various instruments. So rest in peace to Monty Norman. Item. We have some big, big iconic pop culture casting news. We have a new Captain Kirk actor. Paul Wesley, formerly in the cast of The Vampire Diaries, was cast as Captain James T. Kirk in the brand new Star Trek prequel series titled Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which just concluded its 10-episode first season on Paramount. Let me see who's calling in. The Nostalgic Podblast, you're on the air. Hello?
Hello.
Hey, what's going on? Who's this?
This is Curtis Longclaw.
Hello, Curtis of the RetroZest Podcast.
Yes, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for hooking me up with the opportunity to interview Heather Thomas.
Well, I didn't hook you up with her. I hooked you up with the interview.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean. She's happily married, and I'm a geek. Anyway, how have you been doing? This is perfect timing. Are you watching Star Trek Strange New Worlds? Do you have Paramount Plus?
I do have Paramount Plus, but I have not started watching Strange New Worlds yet. I started Discovery, finally. Well, let me back up. The whole reason that I got Paramount Plus was because I was in the middle of watching TNG, and Netflix, it went off of Netflix, and I couldn't watch it anymore. And I saw that it was, just a few dollars extra a month, and so I said, yeah, I'll go ahead and bite the bullet and get it. And so I've been, continuing watching TNG, and
The Next Generation.
Yeah, Next Generation, yeah. And I started watching Discovery as well, but I haven't dove into Strange New Worlds yet. I'm extremely tempted to do that, though, to just skip Discovery World because I've heard a lot of good things about it.
That's what I did, Curtis. I've never seen Discovery, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think you will, too. You'll have some issues with the continuity, but it's not enough to kill your enjoyment of the show.
Okay.
For instance, Curtis, you know that Vulcans do not kiss. They rub fingers to show affection, right?
Right.
They kiss on the lips. They kiss on the lips in this. That's just a minor gripe.
Oh, so on the show they kiss on the lips.
Right, because this is not a spoiler, but T'Pring is introduced, who is Spock's future bride. Anyone that's seen the original show knows. And there's love scenes between the two, and they're kissing on the lips. So, anyway.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, Sarah and Amanda always just rub fingers. So.
Right, even in private.
Even though Amanda's human, but.
Well, Curtis, I would love to do a show with you coming up, maybe the next Nostalgic Podblast, about Lost in Space 1999, maybe touch on the Space Giants and Star Trek, just have like a geek out for like an hour or so. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. I was, Space 1999 was one of those shows that kind of filled a vacuum, for me. It was, Star Trek had gone off the air, and of course, I was born the year Star Trek premiered, so it wasn't like I was watching it when it first aired, but I watched it in syndication, and Space 1999 was a show that I started to watch because there was no new Star Trek, and there wasn't any Star Wars yet, so it was filling a bit of a sci-fi void for me at the time, and I knew nothing about UFO or any of those shows, that show, which was really a precursor to Space 1999. I believe Space 1999 was supposed to be a sequel series to UFO, but it ended up being its own thing.
Correct. And also a lot of the creative people and actors on Space 1999 went on to do the Star Wars films because it was filmed in England at Pinewood Studios. Same place where the Bond films were made, the Superman 1 and 2 was shot, and 3. So you had a lot of the same creative people. Just like back in the day with the Outer Limits, you had those people, when that show was canceled, move on to Star Trek, the original series. It's kind of the same thing, but I thought 1999 was a great lead-in to the Star Wars universe in that point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because back on episode 100 of my show, I interviewed Garrett Hagen, who was Biggs Darklighter in Star Wars, A New Hope. And one of the things I mentioned to him was he was on Doctor Who. He was in one of the Doctor Who series. I believe he was it was called The Mutants, I believe, was the series of episodes that he was in. And that was during the tenure of the third Doctor, John Pertwee. Incidentally, just a kind of a side note, John Pertwee's son was the guy who played Alfred on Gotham. But anyway, where was I going with that?
Biggs, maybe about the cut scenes. Were you going to go there about how he was cut out of Star Wars? Or? No?
Yeah, there were some cut scenes for Biggs Darklighter, but one of the things I brought up with him was that there was a lot of crossover between the world of Doctor Who and Star Wars. But to your point, Space 1999, James Bond, there's a lot of crossover between all these genres and the world of Star Wars because of, these great British actors, that apparently, George Lucas, scooped up. And typically in the Star Wars universe, the British actors are the ones who play Imperial officers. And the American and Canadians are the ones who portray the rebels and, the other races. But yeah, so it's interesting, it's just, a lot of interesting geeky details that you and I pay close attention to. So
Yes, sir. Now, may I ask, how old are you?
I am 55. I will be 56 next month.
Okay, a little bit older than me. I'm 51, but so I can't believe we're half a century old, you and I. You know what I mean? I don't feel that way. But
No, it's crazy.
The good thing is we have a lot of knowledge. Most of my knowledge is useless knowledge, like for bar trivia, but we have a lot of knowledge about the things we love. And I think, you know, we're very similar, very similar. We're like, we could be brothers with what we like. But I think your show is excellent. The RetroZest Podcast, you get so many great guests. I mean, I love the time you interviewed Flash Gordon's Dale, Melody Anderson, the actress who played Dale Evans. It's Dale Evans, right? Is the character name?
Yeah.
In Flash Gordon. I mean, I could go down the list. Huh?
Dale Arden.
Dale Arden, that's it. Dale Evans, of course, is Roy Rogers' wife. I'm not firing on all thrusters.
You're still thinking of the Fall Guy.
I am. I am. And by the way, you know that I have all the Fall Guys on film, 5 seasons on reel-to-reel film. Most of them cost $35, but a few of them cost me $150 each. The 2 Elvira ones were $150 because of the demand, and the 2 Roy Rogers episodes were $150. And then there was one with LaToya Jackson, the Temptations, and the Four Tops performing their original music, and that one went for $150. But anyway, I digress.
Wow. Well, yeah, you know, that's how you and I first connected a few months ago, was when I did the Fall Guy 40th anniversary episode, and both Doug Barr and Heather Thomas were on my show, and you know, I get this message from you, and you're talking about all these 35 millimeter films you have, and I was like, wow, you know. I said, I've got to get over to your place and check those out.
Yeah, and then we had lunch last December, right before Christmas time, and yeah, the rest is history. And I'd like to have lunch with you at the end of the month here in July 2022. But yeah, man, and your show is so well produced. I mean, I love that you have an assistant, a British guy. He's like your Jarvis in the Avengers universe.
Right.
Who reads your news stories.
It's computer generated, but it's a lot of fun, you know, giving him. I actually just named him just a few months ago. I mean, he did the opening and ending credits for the show originally. That was basically all he did, but now it's I have him do retro news, and also I have him read off all the landmark celebrity birthdays for each month as well, just to make it more interesting.
That's cool. And you know, I'm impressed that you knew this number. I didn't put the show number out there. I guess you took notes. I'm really impressed. You knew the number to call in.
Well, you gave it to me the other day.
I did? I see. I didn't remember that. Okay. But, man.
Yeah, you gave it to me.
I have got...
You told me you were going to be interviewing Heather.
Right. Okay. That's right. That's right. You know, I spoke over her a couple times. I'm ashamed to say I couldn't really hear. It wasn't that bad, but I want to just apologize if Heather's still watching this or her assistant. I'm sorry. Anyway, I stepped on her toes a little bit, and I'm embarrassed about that. But anyway.
Well, I mean, you know, Chance, I mean, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do these live interviews on the air like this, because, I mean, I have the advantage of being able to go and edit and take out long periods of silence and make it sound like everything was just perfect in each interview, when in reality that's anything but the truth, you know. I mean, it's I mean don't get me wrong, I mean, I've had some great interviews, but I mean, there's been some times where I've spoken over somebody, and I'm able to, because I have a multi-track program and Adobe Audition, I can, you know, edit out whenever I do that, you know. So it's a lot of smoke and mirrors on my show.
That's cool. That's cool. So you're giving us a behind the scenes look at how you produce the RetroZest podcast. And you know, I love your website. You've taken it to another level. I've just got a domain. I've never really built up a website. I need to do that. You have blog posts, you have incredible digital art, and you honor the birthdays of living and deceased personalities that we all know and love in your growing, huge Facebook group, or is it a page? I can't remember. The RetroZest Podcast.
Yeah, it's Facebook page. It's just called RetroZest on Facebook. It's that's the blog. I started with a blog, and I started with the Facebook page, and this was before I started the podcast. This was back in 2018. The podcast, I didn't start the podcast until 2020, May of 2020, and it's been just over 2 years.
And
I grew the Facebook group before I started the podcast. So.
And did you start it because of the pandemic during the lockdowns and things? What inspired you to start a podcast?
Well, I did. That was part of it. Actually, I never used to listen to podcasts. I started listening to a podcast. The first podcast I ever started listening to was called Stuck in the 80s. And the host of that show was a guy by the name of Steve Spears, and his co-host is Brad Williams. And I met Steve and Brad on the 80s cruise back in 2017, which is this, great event that Entertainment Cruise Productions puts on. And, I started listening to their show because I'm, a big nostalgia guy. I love the 80s. And I slowly started to listen to other shows like Forgotten TV, which is hosted by Chris Cooling. That's a great show. He gets into a lot of minutia about forgotten TV shows. So if you're into shows like The Powers of Matthew Starr or Automan or anything like that, Chris Cooling is your guy. Forgotten TV. And as far as music goes, I like Ridiculous Rock Record Reviews. So, over a period of time, I'm listening to all these shows, and I decide to take little bits and pieces of each show that I like and kind of incorporate it into my own show, because I don't want to just outright copy anybody, And as far as Stuck in the 80s goes, I didn't want to be stuck in the 80s. I wanted to cover nostalgia, whether it be from the 1960s, the 70s, or the 80s. And sometimes I kind of go into the 90s as well. So that was kind of the genesis. And then when the pandemic hit, I had, a little bit of extra time, so I decided to, kind of put things in motion and then put it out there. And, it's slowly grown over time. As you said, when I first started, it was basically just a monologue. It was just me sharing, random, as you say, useless trivia. But over time, I would start to get interviews. Like my very first interview was on episode 16 with Diane Franklin, who played Monique Jeannot in Better Off Dead with John Cusack, and she was also in The Last American Virgin. And then, as you said, I after that I interviewed Melody Anderson, who played Dale Arden in Flash Gordon, then Lydia Cornell from Too Close for Comfort, and it just kind of took off from there. And I think I get a little bit better at interviewing each time I do it.
You do.
I come up with some more creative questions,
You know who one of us or both of us should interview is Greg Evigan. There's a huge nostalgia factor for BJ and the Bear.
Oh, yeah. I just interviewed Rick Rossovich, who was Slider in the movie Top Gun, and that was one of his first shows. That was one of his first acting gigs, was BJ and the Bear.
And I don't know if you know this, but supposedly the 35 millimeter negatives were destroyed in the June 2008 fire at Universal Studios, but there's still tapes that exist from reruns that are not digitally remastered, but it's better than nothing. And that's just, if that's true, that's a tragedy, because, I mean, it wasn't a wonderful show. It's not like NCIS, but it holds a lot of hearts You know, it's near and dear in the hearts of many people and in their minds and hearts. That's all I'm trying to say. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I discovered is that occasionally you can find, there's this website called archive.org, and occasionally you can go on there and search for an old TV show like BJ and the Bear or Emergency or something like that, and there'll be whole seasons of it on there.
Wow.
And, sometimes it ends up getting taken down, but I actually found a few episodes of BJ and the Bear on there. It looks like it was from somebody's home video collection, but still, I mean, you can still see it. You know, you can it's still watchable.
Yes, sir. It's sad. The whole generation is unaware of BJ and the Bear and the Fall Guy, except for the 2006 DVD release of season 1, which was butchered, and I've talked about that ad nauseum. People are unaware of it, but supposedly it's going to start streaming on Disney Plus. I heard from a reliable authority, and that'll be great when younger people can discover the fun of the Fall Guy. But I hope BJ and the Bear gets a resurgence as well for the lost generation that hasn't seen it. I mean, it was a lot of fun. Now, the last time I recall it airing on television was on WWOR back in 1995, and I recorded a bunch of episodes on VHS, which I've converted to DVD with my machine. And that's what was on YouTube. So, someone else had recorded the WWOR Secaucus, New Jersey airings from 1995 and put them on YouTube. Well, they all got taken down, I guess, because of copyright. They were up for years, and now they're gone. It's a shame, but at least there's places out there you can find them. And, you know, I'm not a big fan of bootlegs and things, but low quality is better than no quality.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just out of curiosity, with the Disney Plus airing of the Fall Guy, are they restoring all of the music?
That's what I heard, because Disney has deep pockets, and I heard they're going to pay the music royalties. This guy works, I can't mention names. He works at a digital conversion company in California, and he said we just got a batch of Fall Guys to digitally remaster and convert. And he indicated there was the original music intact, so we'll see.
Oh, that's great.
One thing,
I wish they do that with WKRP.
Yes. And Curtis, one thing that perplexed me was in my research for Heather's interview, I didn't know this until the other day. The Fall Guy movie with Ryan Gosling that's going to film in Australia, supposedly Universal, which is owned by Xfinity Comcast, is going to produce that, yet Disney owns the rights to the Fall Guy television show because they bought the 20th Century Fox film and television library. So I don't understand how Universal can be doing a Fall Guy movie and not Disney, or a division of Disney. I don't get it. Unless it's like Spider-Man, you know, Sony leases to Disney the right to use Spider-Man. Maybe Disney's leasing to Universal the right to use the Fall Guy. I don't know. But maybe it's not Universal at all, but it looked like a legitimate news source where I saw this article. We'll see.
Yeah, well, you know, that's interesting because Disney owns the rights to Marvel, yet when you go to Orlando, when you go to Universal Studios Orlando, or actually you go to Islands of Adventure, which is part of Universal, they have a Marvel section there, and they have the Hulk ride. So I don't know what kind of agreement has been made there, but I don't know of any Marvel. There is a Guardians of the Galaxy ride at Epcot, you know, at Disney, but other than that, I don't know of any other Marvel, you know, related rides. That's at Universal.
That's an excellent point that didn't occur to me. You're absolutely correct. Hey, you were just at Disney World with your son for a great Father's Day trip. You want to talk about that? About what you experienced in Hollywood Land and the Star Wars universe down there?
Yeah, we went to Disney Hollywood Studios to visit Galaxy's Edge. Neither one of us had ever been to Galaxy's Edge. And my cousin Jeff, who lives in Tampa, is in the military, and he's in the reserves, and so he has a pass there. So he met us there and kind of showed us call it a fast pass. I can't remember what they call it, but there's something you can spend like an extra $15 and get in these faster lines to get on the rides, in certain rides. But yeah, they have a Millennium Falcon ride. They have Rise of the Resistance, and that's outstanding, by the way. That is I mean, it's a whole experience. It's not just a single ride. I mean, you actually get captured by the First Order, and you go through their base. You're I don't know if it's supposed to be Starkiller base or what, but I think you're actually on a Star Destroyer, and there's just you get in this, you end up getting in this little, not a shuttlecraft, but like a little cart or something that goes through the Star Destroyer, and it's being piloted by an R2 unit, and you go through the Star Destroyer, and you actually come upon some Imperial walkers, and you see all these laser cannons, and it's just, you just have to experience it. You can't really describe it, but it's Disney did a really bang up job with all the Star Wars rides and the whole experience.
Was it packed, super packed with other folks enjoying it? But I know you said you had a fast pass, but huh?
Yeah, it actually wasn't too bad that day. We went on a Friday, and I'm sure if it would have been Saturday, it would have been worse. But I mean, there were a fair number of people there, and it was worth it to spend the extra $15 for per person to be able to get through some to get on some rides faster.
Cool.
We didn't get to do every single one of them that way, but because you have like a certain time that you have to do it, and sometimes all the fast passes get used up, and you have to have the app on your phone, and you gotta. I didn't know how to navigate all that. My cousin had to help us with that, so thankfully he was there.
Very cool. That sounds like an epic vacation.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But I must say Disney's very proud of their parks. It's not cheap, but I would consider getting a season's pass there, but I don't live there, and they go for like $800, I think.
Right. Do you drive or fly to Orlando? From Atlanta.
Normally I drive.
Same here. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, man, I think your digital art is fantastic. You're really good with digital stuff on the RetroZest.com. Say your website again so I get it right, please.
Yeah, RetroZest.com. That's RetroZest.com.
You do an excellent job, and keep up the celebrity interviews. You have some fantastic material, and I'm proud to have you on fistfulofradio.com every Saturday and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 10-ish, at least 3 hours, sometimes longer, and then Tuesday nights at 8:05 p.m., and I'll add some more airings too. But, of course, the best place is to go to your platforms, and please join his page. Your Facebook page again, sir?
Yeah, it's just RetroZest.
Cool.
And I'm also on Instagram. I believe on Instagram I'm Zest Retro because somebody had already taken RetroZest, I think. And on Twitter, I'm RetroZest, and that's pretty much it.
Aren't you on TikTok? I thought you sent me something about TikTok or something.
Yeah, I am on TikTok. I just put some goofy videos on there. I'm just playing around with that to see if I can make something go viral. The unfortunate thing about TikTok is that you can't share links.
Right.
Which is the same thing with Instagram. But
yeah,
and it has to be videos. It can't be pictures. But I don't know. Just just playing around with that to see if I can make something go viral. I usually put my website, on the screen, but on every video I do. But it's a toss up as to whether anybody will actually visit my website as a result of it. So.
And any fellow Star Trek fans out there, I'd highly recommend Curtis's show he did on the 40th anniversary of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, which of course is in our rearview mirror. But that was a fantastic episode of the RetroZest Podcast.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had Laura Banks on that episode. She played Khan's navigator in the film.
And also, I like your second guest. I don't know if anyone knows this. I won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but it's so cool. There was basically a fan film that George Takei was in, Sulu, on the original Star Trek and in the movies, but he shot stuff back in 1984 or 85 that just wound up being in the can for decades. And they recently completed that project with new and old footage. And that fan film is called A Time to Heal, and you had one of the principal players in that project, and it's on YouTube. It recently launched in April 2022. You've got to check it out, and it's not that long of a watch, but it's so good, so well done.
Yeah, it's actually Yorktown, A Time to Heal.
Right,
it's
I'm
about
sorry.
The USS Yorktown, Sulu. It takes place between Star Trek the Motion Picture. I'm sorry, it takes place between the original series and Star Trek the Motion Picture. And the idea is that Sulu is serving aboard another starship during that time when the Enterprise is being refitted. And it's a good. Stan Wu was the mastermind behind that fan film. He shot it all on 8mm film, and he never finished it. And there was an article in Starlog magazine about it. And
back in the 80s, yeah.
But
yeah,
about 1987, I think. And the film was never finished. And in fact, he thought he had lost it. He thought he had left it in his car, and his car had gotten broken into, and a bunch of stuff had been stolen, like some tripods and some other stuff. And he thought that his 8mm film, that he captured for that movie he thought it was stolen, but he discovered years later, I think he said it was in his mother's attic or grandmother's attic or something like that. And this Canadian filmmaker named John Atkin contacted him to ask, what had happened to the film. And, Stan told him, and so they ended up working together to finish the film. And, of course, they transferred the 8mm film to video, and they filmed some new scenes using that have been built. Like there's a Star Trek fan film studio in Kingsland, Georgia, and I believe there's another one in the Midwest somewhere that they used to film some scenes aboard starships, because there weren't, at the time, they didn't, the only scenes that they had filmed were on a planet, and they filmed an away team, of course Sulu was a part of that, and so they filmed all these starship scenes, and what they did was they added some filters to age the footage to make it all match the 8mm footage, and and I agree with you, the end result was just, magnificent. I mean, it's great to see George Takei, in his prime,
right,
reprising in another film, playing the same role that we all, know and love.
And James Shigeta is in it. He was from, Hawaii Five-0? I mean, he's a well-known mainstream actor. He's no longer with us, but he's in it.
Yeah, he played an admiral in to Heal, which was a character who was mentioned in Star Trek the Motion Picture but never seen on film.
Correct. And he's Japanese, so maybe that's why George Takei came on board. I don't know. Maybe there's some camaraderie there, but it's great that two excellent Japanese actors were a part of this project back in 1985, 87. And it's so well done. There's this self-sacrificing scene. I don't want to spoil it, but look up Yorktown, A Time to Heal on YouTube. It's so well done. And there's a great self-sacrificing scene, a tragic scene towards the very beginning of this short. And I think they used it in episode 9 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which recently dropped on Paramount Plus. Once you see it, you'll see what I'm saying. It's like a major character does something similar to what happens to that character, that female character at the beginning of Yorktown, A Time to Heal. Anyway, I think Paramount's aware of it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then also they did a tribute in that very same episode. I'm talking about episode 9. They did a tribute to Space 1999's Dragon's Domain horror episode, which most people out there won't know what I'm talking about, but it's kind of like the movie Alien, where crew members are being killed by this beast, by a space monster, right? In this like graveyard of spaceships. And you remember how the people would be sucked into the bottom of the creature and they would spit out their bones in that Space 1999 episode titled Dragon's Domain from season 1? Well, they did a bit like that in Star Trek Strange New Worlds episode 9. And the aliens in that are the Gorn. When they're born, they're like little baby reptilian killers. And so they do a bit like the first Alien where the creature spurts out of the chest of a victim. And it's like a tribute to John Carpenter's The Thing, the original Alien movie from 79, and Space 1999's Dragon's Domain, shot in 1974. Very well done, and they used puppets for the baby Gorn combined with modern effects and had killer special effects and really good thrills in that episode. Enough said.
Oh, wow. Well, I guess they didn't use Ted Cassidy's voice.
No, they did not. Yeah, Lurch from the Addams Family, right. He voiced the Gorn in the classic series in the episode Arena from season 1 of Star Trek TOS, the original series, also on Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus is the home for all things Star Trek. I would encourage anyone to subscribe. If you're a Trekker or Trekkie and you don't have Paramount Plus, you're doing yourself a big disservice.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you know that Ted Cassidy also did the narration at the beginning of the Incredible Hulk?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, man, you do a...
He didn't have his character voice on for that.
No, and he also did the voice of the creature, the Hulk itself, the growls. That was Ted Cassidy. But then he got...
It was.
He died in 79 because of a heart surgery, sadly, and they replaced him with another actor who was a character on BJ and the Bear. He played Hammer. And he played Adam in the original Star Trek episode The Way to Eden. You know what I'm talking about? Charles Napier.
I'm talking about
Charles Napier.
Yeah. Tucker McElroy, driving the Winnebago.
And he played a great character in BJ and the Bear. Hammer, he was a nemesis for BJ. He was like a renegade trucker. And he was awesome in that show. And he always played a tough guy. You know, sing us a song. He even was in the Cable Guy movie. He had a small part as like a rogue cop, a friend of the Cable Guy. Anyway. But I love Charles Napier. He's no longer with us. He was a great, great actor. But he was also in Rambo, First Blood Part 2. Oh, hell yeah. And he voiced the creature after Ted Cassidy died. But, of course, they kept the narration in throughout the duration after the death of Ted Cassidy out of respect. And because he was just such a great, deep voice, Ted Cassidy, Lurch, the original Lurch.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I just want to quickly say, I'm not spoiling anything, but the final episode of season 1 of Strange New Worlds, that's what I was talking about when you called in, introduces Captain Kirk. And they have Samuel Kirk, his brother, introduced early on in season 1 of Strange New Worlds. But in the final episode, it's a throwback to Balance of Terror, an original Star Trek episode that introduced the Romulans. It was the 9th episode produced, including the 2 pilots, back in the day in 1966. And it's an alternate universe, pseudo time travel episode. Extremely well done. The effects are fantastic. I'll get into it a little bit later in this edition of the Nostalgic Podblast, episode 104, briefly, but they just did a fantastic job. You will love it, Curtis. I just know you'll love what they did with that episode.
Okay, well, I think you've talked me into skipping Discovery. I mean, I can continue to watch Discovery, but I think I'm going to skip ahead and watch Strange New Worlds.
And you taught me to watch Discovery because I've never seen one episode of Discovery, and I have access, so there's no reason not to watch it in my spare time.
Yeah. I've just barely started that. I mean, but, because I'm watching so many different things, just like you are, I'm sure. But,
yeah. I don't know if you heard, Heather Thomas is enjoying Stranger Things. And she loved The Mandalorian. She digs sci-fi stuff. Isn't that cool?
I heard that.
Okay. I didn't know if you're listening.
Yeah, I watched part of the interview.
Very good. I'm grateful.
That was surprising. And interesting that she's going to be at the Fanboy convention.
Yeah. I may need to make a road trip to Orlando to see her and Lee Majors. I've met Lee, though, at DragonCon 2012, got a signature and all that good stuff. But I've never met Heather or Doug face-to-face, and they've not made an announcement about Doug, but as you know, he's a busy guy. He may have plans Labor Day weekend, but it would be great if they could all three be together, but it may not be possible.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but it'd be great to meet Doug, too.
Absolutely.
Doug had a lot of great stories about the Fall Guy and about his career in general.
He sure did. But you had just a fantastic 40th anniversary Fall Guy tribute on the RetroZest podcast. You had both Heather and Doug on the same show, and you did an incredible job. I mean, I'm not saying this just to kiss your ass. I'm serious, man. That was a great episode.
Well, thank you very much. I'm not above an ass kissing.
Woo! Well, I mean,
No, but
go ahead.
No, yeah, he was a great episode. I had been trying to get a hold of Doug for a long time, and I don't know how you track down guests, but I had this email address. There was a website. He used to have this winery in California, and I thought he still had it, and apparently he had sold it. And but somehow I found his email address on another website somewhere, and I was able to track him down that way. And he graciously agreed to do the interview. And it's funny because I asked him, so yeah, it's the 40th anniversary of the Fall Guy. Are you doing a lot of these? And he said, no. He said, in fact, I didn't even know it was the 40th anniversary. So I mean, these celebrities, a lot of the time they're not as nostalgic as we are. But I mean, not that he didn't enjoy being on the show, but he's not like keeping in mind, wow, the 40th anniversary is this year. I've got to be ready to do some interviews or whatever. That apparently that never went through his mind.
Well, it's sad. It's really sad to me that the Fall Guy has not been seen in its entirety since like 1997 on the FX channel. I mean, the Decades channel ran starting in 2016 an occasional weekend marathon that they call the Decades Binge, but it was primarily the season 1 episodes, the DVD version with the altered music and with Paul Williams removed from the pilot. And they did play the last episode of season 2, which had Heather Locklear in it, because it didn't have any background music to be altered. Like, obviously, the only episodes that have been altered are season 1 and season 2 by 20th Century Fox in 06 and 07. Season 2 was only released in European markets, not in America or in Canada. And it was time compressed. People have put some of the season 2 episodes from the DVD in Europe on YouTube, and you can just tell the actors' voices don't sound right. The music doesn't sound right. But point being, decades, they ran one episode from the end of season 2. They ran a couple from season 3 that never had any background music that had to be dealt with. You know what I'm saying? So it's sad to me that it's not aired in its entirety for millennials and other generations, because it's a great, fun show. I mean, it's not a think piece, but it's not boring. It's awesome. And a lot of comedy. And I'm just grateful to have all the episodes on reel-to-reel film. I mean, I got to have you over sometime. We'll watch a couple.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. It's funny because I remember when I interviewed Heather, one of the things that struck me about rewatching the pilot was the fact that, number one, Howie, when Colt is reunited with Howie, and Howie becomes a part of the, his whole entourage and everything. They're driving up to the mountain. They're driving up the mountain to Colt's house, right?
In the Hollywood Hills,
and
yeah.
Of course, Howie thinks he has a mansion and he has this little shack, basically. But on the trip up there, Jody, played by Heather, is in the back of the truck. and I was like, wow, that's real gentlemanly of Colt and Howie there. And the other thing was, when they got to the house, at one point Colt has to leave, and he tells Howie, Jody will make you a sandwich before you leave.
So sexist.
And she said, well, yeah, I mean, it was the 80s, we were real good for making sandwiches back then,
Make me a plate of barbecue, honey. No. Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's awful. That's funny, though. But you're right. And she looked hot in the back of that truck and none too pleased. Heather Thomas's Jody Banks in the back of that pickup in those shots. She didn't look happy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she said she played it that way because her character didn't like Howie at all. And, of course, in real life, she loves, Doug big time. But the characters were kind of at odds with each other.
And as the show progressed, they still had a little animosity, but it wasn't as bad. She'd warmed up to him as the show went on. But yes, at first, she was pretty standoffish to defend herself. She goes, you better watch the way you look. She goes, unless you want to pick up your teeth, you'll watch the way you look and talk to me or something. I forget the exact line. I should know. I've watched it probably 20 times. But anyway, she sets him straight right from the get-go in the pilot. Well, what does he say? He says, because there's a lot of things I'd hire you for, and your hands wouldn't be on the list. He makes a sexist remark, and then she sets him straight with that remark. Unless you want to spend the afternoon picking up your teeth, you'll watch the way you talk and look at me. Do we understand each other? Anyway.
Yeah. There was never any sexual tension between them or between her and Lee Majors. I mean, it was totally platonic.
Right. And what I thought was interesting is they use their brains to solve cases. It was kind of weird, like they didn't use guns. Like Colt would always use blanks. And this is not a statement on guns or gun control or anything like that. I'm just stating a fact. In the first episode after the pilot, he did have kind of like an Uzi gun, like in the hidden compartment of his truck. But after that, they made a point. He doesn't use a gun. I thought, that's interesting. I remember there's a season 5 episode with a rogue bounty hunter who draws a gun on him and goes, you still don't use a paceseavers? See, you don't. And he has like the advantage over Colt because Colt doesn't carry a gun in this scene. What was that episode? Seavers, Dead or Alive, season 5. Anyway, Bo played this actor, Bo Sweverson. I'm probably screwing up the pronunciation of his name. Bo, Sverson. He played the rogue bounty hunter. Anyway, enough said. That's a great episode.
Yeah, it was such a fun show. With Lee Majors having played the $6 Million Man, Colonel Steve Austin, it could have very easily been typecast, and it could have flopped. But, he sings the theme song, and, who knew that Lee Majors could do it all, he's just an enigma. He's a cultural icon. A lot like Bill Shatner, William Shatner proved that he could not only be Captain Kirk, but T.J. Hooker and Denny Crane. So
That's right. And I learned something from Heather. I mean, she says her poster was like the record-breaking bikini poster of all time. I didn't know that. I think she might have beaten Farrah's record. I tried to look up numbers. I couldn't find anything in terms of numbers of sales volume of her poster, but that's incredible.
yeah, she told me that as well. I believe it. I believe it.
I saw that poster everywhere growing up, didn't you? At your friend's house? I mean, older brothers. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was everywhere.
Well, it sounded like you're...
And she and Heather Locklear did get confused, though, quite a bit.
Definitely. Even the media confuses the two of them. I mean, hosts of popular shows screw that up all the time. And, it's kind of like like I said with Heather, it's like a Ginger or Marianne question. Heather Locklear or Heather Thomas. But every time I've seen that question posed, everyone's like, Heather Thomas, she had the best body. I think this is me, Chance Bartels, making this claim. I think she had the best figure of any actress on television of all time. I really do. I think she's up there. She's definitely, in my book, number one, because she kept up, with the exercises she talked about and just God-given beauty.
Yeah, and oddly enough, she's a tomboy.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not masculine, but she's, like you said, if you don't want to spit your teeth out, you won't look at her the wrong way.
That's right.
So, yeah.
I was very pleased that the fans, I didn't get any questions that were crossing the line, because I went to different sites and fan sites and retro sites, and I said, hey, do you have any questions for Heather? And all of them were respectful, and I was glad of that. I'm glad there wasn't anything that was crude. Anyway, hey, would you talk about this thing in Mexico that I've heard you promote on your show? Some sort of 80s event? What's that all about?
Yeah, it started off being called 80s in the Sand, and now it's just called the Sands. But it's an event similar to the 80s cruise, which I talked about earlier, but it's on land. It's at a all-inclusive resort. The first 3 years, it was in the Dominican Republic at the Breathless Spawn Resort. This year, it's going to be at Planet Hollywood in Cancun. It's actually just outside of Cancun, I believe. And there's going to be some great bands there. The Cult's going to be there. Culture Club, Belinda Carlisle, Cutting Crew, Wang Chung, and it's just a Generation X experience for the whole week. You get to basically relive your glory days, and if you're part of Generation X, and there's going to be some actors from 80s movies there. I don't believe they've announced who's going to be there, but in years prior, Diane Franklin, whom I previously mentioned, she's been there. Amanda Wyss, who was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Nightmare on Elm Street. Robert Romanus, who was in Fast Times as Damone, the little prick. And Robert Hayes, I believe,
from Airplane, who had the drinking problem. He smashed his glass on his head. Yeah.
And Brian Toji, who played I can't remember the character's name, but he was in Revenge of the Nerds. He was the Asian character.
Right.
He was there. He was really nice. He has actually been in. I believe he is the only living person who has starred in both Star Trek: The Original Series and Star Trek: The Next Generation. In Star Trek: The Original Series, he was in that episode in The Children Shall Lead. He was one of the children. Mm-hmm. And in The Next Generation, he played like a navigator on the Enterprise, I think. He might have been the helmsman. I can't remember.
What's his name again?
Only
What's his name again?
Brian Tochi.
Okay.
Brian Tochi. Tochi.
Thank you.
But he's been to the sands, and he's a great guy. And these people are, they're all accessible. They'll sit there and talk to you, and they'll sign autographs, and you can take selfies with them, and it's just a lot of fun, and you get to meet a lot of great people who have, similar interests, that people just like you and me who are big time into nostalgia and into 80s music and movies and so forth. And it's just a great event. You can find out more about it at thesands.rocks. That's THESANDS.ROCKS.
Excellent. Are you and the wife going? Are you and your wife going, or?
Yeah, we're both going, and
Cool.
I actually co-host trivia for 3 or 4 days of the week. I think it's going to be 3 days this year. But my friend Dale Shoemaker and I co-host trivia together, and that's a lot of fun. We have a lot of great prizes that we give out, and it's just a lot of fun.
Super fun. That sounds like a blast, man. I may have to look into going there. That sounds like a really good time.
Yeah, it'd be great to have you.
Yeah, you've invited me to a lot of concerts and stuff, and I've always been busy, and I'm not trying to be antisocial. We got a party sometime together, and definitely do that lunch at the end of July or early August 2022 for sure, and get reacquainted.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah, because you made some of my bucket list dreams come true with interviewing Doug Barr and Heather Thomas, and very grateful to you for that.
Oh, well, my pleasure. My pleasure. And I like your show. I enjoy listening to the Nostalgic Podblast, and I'm very happy to promote it on my show.
Well, thank you for that. And it is like a big, boring monologue, but I like that I'm starting to get some really nice guests, so it's not just me flapping my jaws, I used to have a co-host when I first started the show over 3 years ago. By the way, we just had our 3-year anniversary back on June 15th, 2022. I never did a show. I took a month off or so, 5 weeks off. But I appreciate it, man. And you're a good man. And thank you for your time. And next time, let's get together and rap about Lost in Space 1999 and Trek and a little bit of Space Giants and just nerd out.
Absolutely. Let's do it, man.
Sounds great. Well, thank you, Curtis, for calling in, man.
Well, thank you so much. And, you're a great guy too, Chance. And I'm just so pleased you reached out to me and that we've been able to collaborate together and help each other out. It's been great.
Yes, sir. And you also helped me get Mills Watson's autograph. He's a bit of a recluse. He runs a ranch. He's retired from acting since 1992, and he was best known, of course, on The Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo, among other things like the movie Cujo and I think it was Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke. He's done all sorts of acting, but he's retired, and you helped me get his autograph. So thanks for that, too. He played the bumbling... I remember he played Perkins on Lobo.
That was indirect.
Oh, it's just cool. It's cool, man. Well, listen, you're the best, and I will talk with you soon. Have a real good evening. Anything else you want to promote before we hang up or talk about?
No, I'm good. I mean, RetroZest.com. That's about it.
Hell yeah. Have a good one, Curtis. Talk with you later.
All right, you too, Chance. Take it easy, man.
All right, bye. His show is great. I've said this about other shows. I think he's a little bit better than my show, to be honest with you. I just like his Jarvis, his robotic, programmable British co-host. I think that's cool. Plus the guest factor. And he's helping the Nostalgic Podblast evolve, which I think is great. And I have no disrespect to other people I used to collaborate with, like BK on the Air, Barry King. He does a good job. He does. He's been on the radio since like 2014 on a little station in Cartersville, Georgia, a 1,000-watt station. And he and Alan Sanders, they do a good job. I got to give them a shout out. Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to noon, you might want to check them out. And they're on all the online platforms as well. So let's continue. I'm going to wrap the show in just a little bit. I want to finish what I was talking about before Curtis kindly called in. And that's the fact we have a new actor playing Captain James T. Kirk. Paul Wesley from The Vampire Diaries was cast. In fact, he made his debut already in the season 1 finale of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Yes, I can enunciate. Streaming now on Paramount Plus. Now, we're going to talk about that in just a second because a lot of people are not happy with it. I actually have met him, worked with him on the set of The Vampire Diaries, where I was just like a featured extra. I was really nothing in terms of the business. It wasn't a credited part, but I worked on that show a lot because I was taking acting classes with one of the background casting people, Bejo, named B-A-J-O, Bejo, really nice guy. Anyway, so I've met him, and at a convention, Icon used to have Vampire Diaries conventions. A guy named Kenny Smith owns Icon, and so I met him behind the scenes. He probably doesn't remember me from Adam, so I don't want to talk negatively about Paul Wesley because I like him and I like his acting, but is he on par for playing Captain Kirk? Look, I got to be honest, but we'll get to that in a second. So he's the third actor, as I said, to portray Captain James T. Kirk after, of course, William Shatner and Chris Pine, as I mentioned, the son of Robert Pine, best known as Sergeant Joe Cottrell in the classic show Chips from 1977 to 1983, among other things. And, of course, he was also in a Lost in Space episode, Robert Pine, long before Chips, about 10 years before Chips, in an episode in season 3 of Lost in Space titled Visit to a Hostile Planet, where the Jupiter 2 goes back in time to Earth. They actually make it back to Earth, but it's in the year 1946, I think it is, or 47. I get confused because of a line of Dr. Smith's in that show. 1947. Anyway, Chris Pine's in that, and Robert Pine's in that, and also he was in Munster Go Home, the one and only in-color Munsters movie. He had a small role in that, as did Richard Dawson. Richard Dawson would joke on the old Family Feud episodes. He was ashamed of being in that movie. He just said it was a train wreck. Terrible. He would make jokes about it. He said they should burn every print of Munster Go Home. Oh, my God. But let's continue with Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And I was talking about episode 9, not the season finale. It's only 10 episodes. Season 9 with those little reptilian creatures, the Gorn. And it was really creative what they did with the special effects. It's very, very suspenseful. They used puppets mixed with optical effects, and it totally worked. And there's a new character who is a lovely descendant of Khan from Star Trek The Wrath of Khan, played by the great Ricardo Montalban, who we all miss. And she's supposed to be a distant relative of his, but she's a good character. She's a Starfleet officer. And she is an executive on the bridge of the Enterprise under Captain Christopher Pike, the guy who was the captain before Captain Kirk. So anyway, she had an experience with the Gorn when she was younger, and her brother. A terrifying incident she has flashbacks about. And I love that in a scene in episode 9 of Strange New Worlds, she gets to kill one of these Gorn. She and I guess I'll give some of this away, but not the entire, I won't spoil the entire thing. She and the engineer of Star Trek before Scotty, it was a friendly alien who's blind, and he and she freezes this little baby Gorn. And this thing is ferocious. You shouldn't judge something by its size. Believe me. That's what Yoda said. Remember Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back? Don't judge me by my size. What was his line? Oh, God, doing this live sometimes. When your brain doesn't fire on all thrusters, I've seen that movie so many times. I have a film print of it, of the original version of The Empire Strikes Back. Do or do not, there is no try. But he has a line, judge me by my size, and well, you should not, because my ally is the Force. That's a terrible impression. I'm no Frank Oz, who voiced and worked the puppet of Yoda in that classic movie. But anyway, when they freeze this little ferocious Gorn, I love how she has a closure of her trauma with that alien, with her and her brother, that we saw in a previous episode of Strange New Worlds. I won't say with the episode title, but it's in season 1. The Gorns were introduced, but you didn't see them. You just saw their ship, and then she has a flashback, and you didn't see them until now in episode 9. But when the alien's frozen before that, she's like, they like aggression, so she's like, come on! Like, sorry if it busted out your eardrum there, but I love how she screams. Her acting is good in that. And then anyway, when she freezes the creature, she grabs what looks like a space tire iron and smashes it into 100 pieces. It's a great, satisfying end to the Gorn. But, yeah, and it's definitely heavily influenced. I think it's a tribute. It doesn't come off like a ripoff of Alien from 1979 and John Carpenter's The Thing remake from 1982 and that Space 1999 episode Dragon's Domain, which most people consider one of the best episodes of Space 1999. And it was before Alien. It had special effects by Brian Johnson, who did the effects for the movie Alien and The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi after Space 1999 was canceled. That's one of the tragedies about Space 1999 I'll talk about with Curtis, is that it was canceled just weeks before the release of Star Wars. Had it hung on, Sir Lou Grade was the guy who was financing Space 1999 over at ITC, Independent Television Corporation. And he pulled the plug on 1999 to finance a terrible movie, Raise the Titanic. He took the budget of Space 1999, put it into Raise the Titanic, who Mike Brooks worked on, who's deceased, who was a big name in Atlanta radio. He talked about working on that movie. But Space 1999 was canceled, and it was in syndication in America. It wasn't on a network like ABC, NBC, CBS. It was on independent stations. Had it survived past May 25th, 1977, really June 77, because Star Wars was first introduced in just a handful of theaters, and then it exploded in popularity and reached more cinemas as the word of mouth made it more and more popular. Well, if 1999 had hung on, I think it would have lasted, who knows, 5, 6, 7 years, because all of a sudden outer space was in terms of movies and television shows. There were all these copycats, like, gotta say it, Glenn A. Larson's Battlestar Galactica, which he claims he pitched back in 1969 as Adam's Ark to the networks, but they passed. Were like, well, no, we got Star Trek right now on NBC, so no, we're not going to do that. And it's not doing so great in the ratings. The Invaders beat it in the ratings every week, and ABC just canceled The Invaders last year, so we're going to pass on, yes. Anyway, so you had all these space things when Star Wars was so popular. Moonraker, friggin' James Bond went into space. I mean, hell, at the end of The Spy Who Loved Me, released in 77, it even says James Bond will return in For Your Eyes Only. That was supposed to be the next movie. Well, that got put on hold, and they scrambled and put together Moonraker to capture in on the space craze. That's what the public wanted. And there's always, trends. Like in the 80s, it was the Vietnam movie, right? Hamburger Hill, you had Platoon. There were all these Vietnam movies because that's what was selling movie tickets. Nowadays, it's Marvel. Marvel movies are really the kings of the box office, and because they're well made. They're very well made. And we'll talk about Thor 4 in a moment, briefly. So anyway, getting back to this, I highly recommend episode 9 of Strange New Worlds for the horror element. It's just very well done. Now let's quickly talk about the season 1 finale that introduced Captain Kirk. This was a throwback to a original first season Trek episode from way back in 1966 titled Balance of Terror that introduced the Romulans. The director of this episode of Strange New Worlds is a person named Chris Fisher, and his direction in this is exceptional. Now, in this one, as I've said 3 times now or so, this is the one where we first meet Captain Kirk, played by Paul Wesley, who is a great actor. Now, it was announced, he finally got the right or the ability to announce on Twitter back, I think, in April 2022 that I'm honored to play Captain James T. Kirk. And supposedly it was just going to be in season 2. I was caught off guard to see him in season 1 in this season finale. Now, here's the bad thing. I love Paul Wesley. He's a great actor, so I feel a little guilty saying this, but I've got to be objective here. Does Paul Wesley have the presence and the physique to play Captain Kirk? No, not yet anyway. In fact, he's wearing obvious shoulder pads in his uniform like Christopher Reeve initially did in the first scenes he filmed for Superman the movie back in 1977 before he bulked up. And then Chris Reeve, he worked out with, of all people, David Prowse, who played Darth Vader. He trained with him back in the day. Now, so maybe Paul can hit the gym. But in this, he's just very, very thin, as he was in person. I hope he can bulk up naturally, no steroids, to really get the physique and the broad shoulders going and to look like a William Shatner back in the day. Or even Chris Pine. That's an easy fix. So saying this, I don't feel so guilty because that's something anyone can do. You can get a trainer, get in shape, and his hair didn't look quite right. Now he usually has wavy hair, at least in the Vampire Diaries he did, almost curly. So they did sort of straighten it, but Captain Kirk had a classic hairstyle, kind of like Superman in the comic books and the movies. He didn't have the little S, but it was kind of a similar, unique style. So those are just 2 easy fixes I'd recommend as a fan. So getting back to the episode itself, in the plot, Captain Pike, who was the captain before Star Trek on the USS Enterprise, he's visited by his future self, who travels back in time to prevent his youthful self from altering the destiny of the universe, in which something catastrophic happens where the Romulans declare an unending war with the United Federation of Planets. And there are epic space battle special effects in this episode. And I love the sound effect of the USS Enterprise phasers here. They sound like the laser craft of Ming ships back in the 1980 camp classic movie Flash Gordon that I talked about with Curtis a moment ago. I was going to try to play a clip of those laser sound effects from Flash Gordon, but I couldn't get it to load properly. Let me try right now real quick. Let's see here. Oh, Al Hardy's texting me. Well, I can't address that just yet. Let me see if I can get this to go. Listen to the sound effects of the lasers. Murderer.
Flash, I loved you.
There we go. Ah, there's an ad. Or graphics. Anyway, so I noticed that immediately in some of the space battle scenes, and there is a great scene where the Enterprise clips the Romulan ship, which can cloak and become invisible, and they did that plasma weapon. If you know, I know there's Trekkers and Trekkies out there. I don't mean to lose the general audience, but there was a weapon in that episode, Balance of Terror, and they've done the effect here in 2022, and it's killer. It's a killer effect of that plasma weapon. And they pretty much reshoot some classic scenes with a twist. So, again, and at the end of the final episode of season 1, we got to wait a year to see how this is resolved, supposedly. I think it'll be 2023 before we see season 2 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds drop on Paramount Plus. But it had a cliffhanger ending. And I just loved the finale and the cliffhanger. Now, it wasn't as compelling as a Dallas season-ending cliffhanger, but it was a good cliffhanger nevertheless. And the music was great, and it just made you want more, which a good cliffhanger is designed to do. Now, one little gripe. I always have a gripe because I have an analytical mind, but at one point in the story, there's a 2-hour ceasefire that's achieved by Captain Pike with the alien Romulan commander. Okay, now, riddle me this, Batman. Isn't the concept of time in the context of 2 hours an Earth-based system of measuring the Earth revolving around Earth's sun? So how would the Romulans, whom the Federation meets for the very first time in this episode, know what 2 hours means? That's just a nitpick, but it's a valid one. Because Captain Pike, like I said, he initiates or proposes a 2-hour ceasefire, and there's like, oh, 2 hours? Okay. Like they know instantly what that means. I thought, okay, that's just a little gripe, but that's kind of an F up. So let's move on. I've talked this to death, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, but episodes 9 and 10, they're classics, and I think you'll love them, even if you don't dig Star Trek. You can know what's going on because it's set before the Captain Kirk classic episodes from 1966 to 1969. You don't need to know anything going in, and it's well done. The sets, the music, the pacing, and there are some surprises. People die in this thing. It's very well done, like main characters. So, item. This is old news, but Obi Wan Kenobi wrapped on Disney Plus, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I got to get ready for a visual aid for you. And there were all sorts of Easter eggs in it. I'm not going to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it yet. I know my dad's watching them. He may have already finished by now. I need to give him a buzz and see what he thought, but he loves Star Wars. He got into Star Wars rather late in life, but he loves it now, even though we saw him in the theater together when I was a kid. But he loves The Mandalorian, as Heather Thomas did, and most of you out there. He thought it was great. So let me mention a couple Easter eggs in Obi Wan Kenobi that I've not heard anyone else mention, and maybe they did, and I'm just not aware of it. Let me get my visual aid. Here it is. Okay. There's an episode. I think it's the 4th episode. It doesn't matter. You'll see it. I won't reveal which Obi Wan Kenobi episode showed this, but at one point, Darth Vader is on his Star Destroyer looking out into space, and we see his helmet lost in the stars and his reflection on the window of his ship, just like the classic cover of the original Empire Strikes Back soundtrack album, and in some posters and other promotional materials where it showed Darth Vader's helmet amongst the stars. Even if you're not watching the Nostalgic Podblast, episode 104, this episode on YouTube or in Facebook Live or wherever you see this show, you know what I'm talking about. Just picture Darth Vader's helmet and a bunch of stars in the background. Well, I loved it. It was like a tribute to that promotional piece, and I caught it instantly. The acting was great. It had a great finale. I think Disney did a fantastic job with Obi Wan Kenobi, and I highly recommend it. So let's see what else I got for you here as we wind down this edition of the Nostalgic Podblast. And that's just one example of Easter eggs. And Curtis, I'm sure, noticed some. We'll talk about it next time when we analyze, or analyze, if you will. I'm a little anal or retentive about these things. Obi Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus. So, let's move on. I was pleasantly surprised by Miss Marvel on Disney Plus. That is a Disney streaming service, and I've been critical of Hawkeye and Moon Knight, but this one grew on me. The first episode, I was like, but I do like Miss Marvel. Now, the actress who portrays the newest and current Miss Marvel, I'm not talking about Brie Olson. I'm talking about the current star, Khan. She is a Ms. Marvel fan herself. This endeared me to her as an actor and her story. There's a 5-minute short on Disney Plus, a behind-the-scenes short on Ms. Marvel, and it shows old footage of her, like from her cell phone, reading and actually in cosplay, in costume of Ms. Marvel from 2012 and 2013. For those that don't know, back then in 2012 and 2013, in the current comics, they introduced her as a Muslim character. Now, a lot of you are like, what? Just bear with me. And she said she could relate to it because it was the first time she noticed, as she calls a person of color, she calls a brown person, I think she says, her words, not mine, that was a superhero. And so she literally was a fan. So I love that story, that a fan of a show could go on to star in something that she liked. I think that is a great story. So and they even gave a nod to something from a 1978 Ms. Marvel comic I'm going to show on camera real quick, and then we'll move on. Then I don't want to spoil Ms. Marvel, and I'm not going to. I'm about to talk about another topic if you can't dig it. But back in 1978, this would be on the shelves in, let me think, July 1978. The character of Carol Danvers, the original Ms. Marvel, got a new costume. And it was kind of sexy. It was by artist Dave Cockrum, who gave her, as you can see on camera, just basically, it had like a little sash on her hip and these boots that rose up through her hips and her thighs. Look, it's artwork. It's a drawing. I'm not trying to sound like a weirdo creep aroused by a piece of art. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I liked it, okay? And in the splash page, which is page 1 of the comic book, you see Carol Danvers modeling her new costume in a mirror. And they sort of showed that in episode 1 of Ms. Marvel. Just a little Easter egg. I like that. And here, I'll show you the piece. And of course, it was drawn by a man. So she's looking at her ass in the mirror. And this is an adult character in the comic books, okay? So don't misunderstand. Let me be clear. Let me show you on camera. I got 2 copies of this. Here she is modeling for herself her new costume. God bless. I don't want to damage this comic. Well, I'm going to fold it over. I'm going to, commit comic book treason. Let me see if I can get this to show on camera. Anyway, she's in the mirror, checking herself out, and you see her little butt. It's a drawing. See that? They recreated that in episode 1. But it wasn't done sexily like that. Don't misunderstand. She's trying to go to a convention actually before she gets her powers, and she's trying to work on her costume. And she adds a little sachet, so it just shows her it was innocent. It wasn't anyway. I've really talked myself into a corner here, but I just like that, being a somewhat knowledgeable comic book reader, old school. I like that they did that. And so supposedly in a new MCU movie, the characters will interact. Brie Olsen's Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel and the new Miss Marvel. So I look forward to that. So they're doing a good job with it. And it makes you think. Item. There's a brand new primetime game show that began this summer on ABC TV on Thursday nights called Generation Gap, hosted by Kelly Ripa. And man, I love it. I'm going to play a little promotional piece, and it's got some copyrighted music. I hope I don't get dinged. But let me explain what it is. It's just like the title says. It's Generation Gap. So you have a grandparent and the grandchild answering questions visually and orally to win cash and prizes. And what's really cool is in the bonus round, what do they call it? They call it Toddler's Choice. They'll bring out a toddler to pick the grand prize for the winner. So it could be like a brand new SUV. They'll have a brand new SUV and then a remote controlled truck. And of course, at least in the first episode, the toddler chose the truck to the dismay of the family. And so I think that's pretty damn clever. Let me play a little bit of a promotional piece for this new game show, and then we'll move on.
Ready, set, go.
Hosted by Kelly Ripa. 2 teams, 2 generations, 1 new comedy.
We are family.
What's TikTok?
I got to talk over this a little bit. The bots will get me.
What? 3 dummies? What kind of animal is Sonic?
I think it's a dog.
What was the name of this kid?
And it shows Shirley Temple. See, I'm talking over and ruining the clip.
Generation Gap premieres Thursday on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Okay. I liked it. I thought it was really, really good. So that's all I had to say. That's all I got to say about that. And look for that conclusion where the toddler chooses the grand prize. It's pretty clever and fun. And then also they'll show an image of 2 celebrities, a newer one and a classic one on a screen with no names and just their faces. And you have to guess the similarity. Example, showed a picture of Rip Taylor. Remember the $1.98 Beauty Show? I'm going to do a Podblast on the Chuck Barris shows, like $1.98 Beauty Show, The Gong Show, all that stuff. Oh, man, The Dating Game. I should ask Heather if she was ever on The Dating Game. I don't know. I need to look that up. Anyway, I think that show had already gone off the air by the time she hit the scene big time in like 1978. But anyway. So they show Rip Taylor and Taylor Swift. And so you have to guess the similarity. And of course, as my educated audience knows, it's Rip Taylor, Taylor Swift. What's the commonality? Taylor. So that's the answer, Taylor. And I just thought that was pretty damn neat. Fake rant of the week time item. I'm not going to go on about this because I want to wrap the show. And I appreciate each and every person tuning in to hear Heather Thomas. Not me. I know it's all about Heather Thomas with the Nostalgic Podblast episode 104. But I have to try to get caught up. I'm going to skip birthdays because I haven't done a show in 5 weeks. And I would be on here for 8 hours if I tried to cover everything that I've posted on the Nostalgic Podblast in the Facebook group. So I'm going to spare you guys and myself that monotony. But I do have a complaint about dings in parking lots. My God, I have a gorgeous silver turbo Audi sports car, and some son of a bee dinged it. I just can't stand people that are so haphazard. Now, it could be their kid, but you're still responsible, and they just wham, knock into your car. I mean, I've had this car for a few years, and I've kept it in immaculate condition. Whenever I go to a restaurant or to meet somebody, I park way far away, out of my way, A, to get exercise, and B, to protect my car. I've gotten 2 dings lately, and it's just driving me up the wall. Why don't people, there's 2 things that irritate me about driving. People that don't use their turn signal and people that just ding your car in parking lots. And the sad thing is, at least here in the state of Georgia, on private property, if there's an accident, no one is issued a ticket. It's private property. There's nothing you can do. I had an old man back into my Audi. He was like 85 years old. Completely his fault. I'm honking my horn. He still backs into me in a grocery store parking lot. Publix was shopping is a pleasure. It wasn't a pleasure that day in 2018. Right after I bought my car. He backed into it, and guess what? That's when I learned the hard way, and I'm old. I didn't know on private property nobody gets a ticket. It's bullshit. Excuse my French. But dings in parking lots, people just don't have any respect for their fellow man or woman or binary or whatever. I mean, they just don't have any respect. I wish people would be more careful. This public service announcement is brought to you by Remind Magazine. Don't ding cars. Item. Disney does not yet own Harry Potter or Top Gun. And now it's time for our weekly update. And I'm sorry, I'm screaming into the mic. As Al Hardy says, Chance, you don't know how to work a mic. I'm trying to get better there, Al. Did I tell you Al used to work at Turner? He did. I think from 1976 to 1991 or so. All right, let's do this now, y'all.
This is Jeopardy!
Got a quickie Jeopardy update for you. Another mistake by the folks and the writers that write the questions on Jeopardy. I gotta point it out. It's very, very brief. Now, I'm gonna play an audio clip of it, and then we'll move on. Check out this clip from Jeopardy, and I'll explain. Let me get it right here. Oh, real smooth transition there between the clips. Here we go. Here it is. Listen to this question.
Words 800. It usually means unattractive, but can also mean comfortable, like one's place of residence. Allison. What is homely? That's right. Words 1200.
Nope, incorrect. Did you hear that? I'm going to play it again. They said, okay, just it's kind of rough audio, but listen to that, and then I'll make my point.
Words 800. It usually means unattractive, but can also mean comfortable, like one's place of residence. Allison. What is homely? That's right.
What is homely? No, that's not right. It's homey, as in a comfortable home. Homey, like, hey, homie. Homey, homey. Not homely. Things are being rewritten all the time in terms of history, and I looked it up online, and sure enough, all of a sudden, yes, when you say, your house is homey, it's homely. No, homely means like me, the way my face looks. Homely. Homey and homely. Anyway, that was a mistake. I just had to point it out. Now, like Homeland. Remember the show Homeland on Showtime? An excellent show. I call it Homely Land because Claire Danes is homely. Get it? I'm kidding. Now, people are going to hate me for saying that. Just a joke, folks. Homely Land. Anyway, she's not homely. She's very attractive, and she's one of the best actors out there, Claire Danes. Shall we play a game? So brief taglines. These are movie taglines. I'm going to name the tagline, and you try to guess the movie. Just have about 7 or so for you today, and then we're going to conclude the show. Here's a tagline, movie tagline. The true story of a real fake. The true story of a real fake. You know the movie? It was Catch Me If You Can. Easy for me to say. Okay, here's another tagline from the brother of the director of Ghost. That was Naked Gun 33 1/3. Tagline. Work sucks. Office Space. Number 4. This is an easy one, and the Fall Guy frequent guest star actor was in this movie, in the series of movies. Here's a quote. This is super easy. He may be dead, but he's the life of the party. Yeah, Weekend at Bernie's. Terry Kaiser played Bernie in the original movie, and then he was playing dead the rest of the film series there. Tagline. If at first you don't succeed, lower your standards. That's Tommy Boy, one of the best I'm a salesman, and I love that as a salesman movie. That's one of the best movies that deals with sales and dealing with rejection and the winds of salesmanship. And of course, it's funny. Really like it. Okay, let's move on to another tagline. Here's the tagline. Nice planet. We'll take it. That's Mars Attacks. That's one of Al Hardy's favorite movies. Okay, tagline. Don't get mad. Get everything. That's the First Wives Club. Now here's the movie that had a 40th anniversary that I mentioned earlier in this episode of the Nostalgic Podblast, episode 104. Tagline. Man is the warmest place to hide. It's John Carpenter's The Thing. Now, I'm going to give you a little more than I promised. Here's another one. Tagline. If Nancy doesn't wake up screaming, she won't wake up at all. Nightmare on Elm Street. The classic Nightmare on Elm Street that started it all with Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. Great movie. Great cast, too. All right, now, thanks again to Heather Thomas for being our very special guest, and to Curtis of the RetroZest Podcast for helping make this dream interview happen, as well as Heather's assistant, Dell, for making this happen. Thank you, Dell. And he also helped the Doug Barr interview happen. And, you know, as Curtis said, Doug really wasn't in the public eye for many, many years, and I'm just delighted that he is these days. So that's really great. So thank you. And I'm going to play a little song, a tribute to Heather Thomas. Before I do, I want to give a shout out to a nice little snack. These mints. I know a lot of folks don't engage in eating sugar, but I miss Certs candies. And did you know in 2018, the U.S. Congress banned Certs because of the cottonseed oil and the resin involved in it, which I think is silly, but it's true. Did you know that Certs are no longer being made? I love the fruit flavor, the peppermint flavor. The cinnamon was okay, but I loved Certs. Well, these, which are currently in production, taste just like Certs, and they're bigger. And it's the last one that I have. Here's the brand. I'll probably mispronounce it. Wilhelmina Mints. Wilhelmina Mints. I'll spell it Wilhelmina. Let me show you what they look like. I kept these out of sight until I do another Nostalgic Podblast because I would eat them all. They're so addictive. But they're kind of a big tablet. They're about the size of a quarter, and they're thick. But they taste just like Certs. So if you miss that Certs fix, that's my tip to you. You can get that classic taste, again, even though in the U.S. Certs are banned. There's no resin and no specks. I like the little specks, the way that Certs would look. I thought it had a cool little look. I love those mints. But Wilhelmina Mints, and it has like a little royal crown. But speaking of royalty, thanks again. I'm not going to repeat myself about this, but I think it's great that royalty, pop culture royalty, Heather Thomas was on our show, the Nostalgic Podblast. That's great. So I wish everyone out there a great week as I sign off. Let me see if there's any other clips I wanted to play that I didn't get to, and then we'll say goodnight. Let's see here. Oh, I did want to play this. We talked about Monty Norman, who passed away. And I don't think I mentioned this. I meant to. The music in The Fall Guy was by a guy named Stu Phillips, who had worked with Glenn Larson on other projects like Battlestar Galactica, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. And there's a great outfit called La La Land Records. And they still make compact discs, if you can believe it. And they're out of California. And they come up with incredible collections, basically of incidental music of feature films and television shows. And they've released the Invaders soundtrack by Dominique Frontier, which I bought and loved from them. They released all the original Star Trek background music on like a multi-disc set. It's a limited edition. Very valuable now. I bought it a couple years ago before they sold out. They do a fantastic job. The Wonder Woman soundtrack, just geeky stuff like that, it's just great music I can use here on the show. I wish they would release something on Stu Phillips. Now, about Fall Guy. He did rousing music, and what I liked was when they had certain classic guest stars in the 80s on, like Don Adams from Get Smart. Stu Phillips, when his scene would come on, would play a version of that classic theme to a T. He did the same thing in the Roy Rogers episodes. Mike Connors, when he came on in season 4, an episode titled Private Eyes, he did a great version of the Mannix theme. who did that theme? It was the same composer of Mission Impossible. Lilo Schifrin, or Lilo Schifrin. Yeah, I think that's right. Lilo Schifrin. Anyway, Stu Phillips is very underrated, and I think part of the success of Fall Guy in terms of the stunts and the action was the music. And they had Western themes like when James Drury, star of the Old Virginian Western, a 90-minute NBC Western that started way back, I think, 1962, and it was one of the first color shows in color. Well, Bonanza predated that in color, but anyway, and so did The Adventures of Superman. I'm all over the place in the story, but point being, he would do nice little tribute songs, and I love the theme to the Fall Guy that Stu Phillips came up with. But to this date, the only thing out there that you can buy of Stu Phillips is the original 1978 soundtrack record album, which is also on compact disc, to Battlestar Galactica, and the 1979 theatrical release soundtrack of Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. But he's really good, and if La La Land Records is out there listening, please do something with the Stu Phillips music. Maybe there's a reason behind the scenes that I'm unaware of. Maybe it's about money. I don't know, but I think it would actually sell. I really do. I'm not just saying that because I want to see it. And in the background, here's some of my Heather Thomas stills. I didn't do a very good job. I was actually inside a little bit nervous talking with Heather Thomas, and so I got a little sidetracked. I meant to show these on camera, and I'll do that in future episodes, but you can see them in the background. But I wanted to show some of my key, and there's some on the ground here I didn't even get to. I mean, I have so many. God. So I'm sorry about that, y'all, guys and gals. But now it's time to dedicate... Oh, no. The Stu Phillips thing. Okay. There were 2 James Bond themed Fall Guy episodes in season 2, episode titled Bail and Bond, which is on YouTube, but it's from PAL, so it's sped up and sounds like crap. And in season 3, Always Say Always, and they brought back Plenty O'Toole, the actress who played Plenty O'Toole, sister of Natalie Wood, Lana Wood, and Britt Eklund was in that one. It was a great James Bond themed episode, but Eon Productions and MGM would not let 20th Century Fox, who produced The Fall Guy, use the music to the James Bond theme, and they wouldn't let ABC use it, that for those 2 reasons. So what did Stu Phillips do? He came up with a facsimile theme to the Fall Guy theme, and I want to play it now. It's just a couple bars of it, and I thought he did a really good job. Hold on.
Where is it?
Let me talk because I got to cue it up.
I never thought I'd ever see that much money. I didn't actually count it, but by the pound, there must be a few million.
They poisoned this guy who stole money from him, and he shows up with a suitcase, and it's just like fake money, monopoly money with real money on top. And so they poison him, not realizing that they don't have the real money. Anyway, let me get to the James Bond theme. In the story, Colt and company are working on a James Bond movie, and they use this theme in both of the James Bond themed Fall Guy episodes, which are really a lot of fun.
I have no time to play games. Where is the money?
What's the big rush? I have to discuss my new partnership with Mr. Swanson.
You poor fool. There is no Mr. Swanson. Your boss used...
And the guy in this scene, I don't think he's speaking yet, is Sid Haig. He's keeping this guy in his chair forcibly with his hand like on his shoulder, and that's Sid Haig. And Sid Haig did many episodes of The Fall Guy every season. He did a great one in season 1 where he's in a biker gang, and Heather Thomas dressed up as a biker chick undercover with Doug Barr wearing a phony beard. I love that episode. Colt's Angels is what it's called, available on... By the way, season 1 of Fall Guy, it's available on Amazon Prime. I don't think I mentioned that. Meant to mention that with Heather. Anyway, and I love that episode. But Sid Haig is in this one, Bail and Bond, and he was in Undersea Odyssey in season 3. He was in the season 4 finale that Heather Thomas wrote about in TV Guide. See, I didn't bring that into this room. I wanted to show you the TV Guide cover. Oh well. But here comes the James Bond-esque music.
Embezzling from his company,
Hang on.
Maclo Industries.
That Stu Phillips
20 seconds to live.
Wrote
I'll give it back.
for the Fall Guy.
Just help.
Wait for it. Yeah, he's dead.
Mr. Fick,
they poisoned
you
him.
appear to have made a tactical error. Find that money. It can't be too difficult. Where could he have hidden it?
Oh shit, the crew.
You all right, Cobb?
Oh, what's another pain between friends?
Well, let's have the first thing in, lads. Come along.
That was Heather there screaming in that scene.
Didn't you tell her I had 3 days left on the picture?
Well, yeah, but you know, Terry, any reasonable excuse is quickly rejected.
I'm going to play just a second more of this. This is key. This is the first episode with Marky Post as the bail bondswoman. It wasn't the first one filmed for season 2. That's an episode titled Piece of Cake with guest star Terry Kaiser. This is Bail and Bond. It was the third one filmed for season 2 that the network chose to air as the season 2 big premiere. So let's listen to the first aired scene with Marky Post replacing Joanne Flug as the bail bondswoman.
Hey, Cobb.
Yeah, tell her I'll be right there.
I got the watch ready.
Hey, new toy, huh?
Yeah. Careful how you handle it now.
That's a prop guy.
Oh, arm it.
Supposedly.
And this one will set it off. We can't make all these big spy pictures without all the toys, and you got to know how to use them.
You mean if somebody asks me the time of day, don't give it to them?
No. And be very careful with this lighter. It's really a flamethrower.
Cute.
Cole, Terry says to get a move on. It's costing her $4 a minute.
All right. Thanks, Al.
Okay.
Thanks, Teddy. Hey, I know you missed me, but a postcard sure could have saved you a bundle.
Hello, Cole. How are you?
Well, considering I just went through a window, I had a wreck yesterday, 2 fights, 3 shootouts.
I'd love to hear your resume, but...
Okay, who'd you misplace this time?
Well, normally I wouldn't dream of interfering with your career, but where you are now is exactly where she's heading.
But who is she?
Oh, a little lady who helped her boss run down south with $5 million.
$5 million? She came to Rio?
Well, first her boss went down, and then she followed him down south. His name is Sands, James Sands. You find him, you'll find her.
You know Brazil doesn't honor extradition. Well, are you willing to spring for private transportation?
I'm on the hook for $50,000. I suppose it's a worthwhile investment.
Well, I'll try to keep it under 50.
You're kidding, aren't you?
Well, we still got a couple of days to work on this picture. But then the extra money will probably come in handy. Sounds like you got a deal. What's the girl's name?
Her name is Marnie Greer. She is 28, blonde, attractive. I guarantee you'll like her.
Yeah, I've heard that before. What about Sands?
Oh, he's not my problem. She was the one that I bailed out. Well, you might try the Hotel Esplanade. That's where he is or was staying.
All right, anything I can bring you back from Rio? I mean, aside from this Miss Greer?
Oh, well, if you see any good-looking gauchos, you might throw one on the plane. Mine's wearing out.
Well, maybe you should oil them more often.
So they're supposed to be in Rio de Janeiro in the story, which, of course, they cheated. They're really in the 20th Century Fox sound stages. So, here we go. I'm going to play now a tribute to Heather Thomas and great appreciation as we sign off. I will fade off of episode 104 of the Nostalgic Podblast with this tribute to the lovely and talented Heather Thomas.
Look around you. Look up here. Take time to make time to be there. Look around. Be a part. Feel for the winter, but don't have a cold heart. And I love you best. You're not like the rest. You're there when I need you. You're there when I need. I'm gonna need you. Yes, I am. A long time ago, I had a lady to love. She made me think of things I never thought of. Now she's gone and I'm on my own love song. I love you best. You're not like the rest. You're there when I need you. You're there when I need. I'm gonna need you. So lady, let me take a look at you now. It's only fair I should say to you. Don't be thinking that I don't want you, 'cause one day I do. Say it for me, oh lady, let me take a look at you now. There on the dance floor, making me want you somehow. Oh lady, it's only fair I should say to you. Don't be thinking that I don't want you, maybe I do.
Don't forget, Fanboy Expo, Labor Day weekend 2022. Go meet Heather Thomas there. Orlando, Florida.
Don't make me